I'd like to call to order Town Council, Town Hall meeting, May 27, 2025, Cape Charles Civic Center. Could I have a roll call, please?
Newman present.
Holloway present.
Buckholz present.
Buda present.
Carlson present.
Ashworth present.
Let it be known we've established a quorum. The order of business this evening is to talk about the new municipal building options. We will start off with the staff presentation and discussion with the council. And then after that, I will lay down some ground rules for the public participation, and we will go from there.
All right, I'll go ahead and start us off. So, good evening, council, mayor. Thank you.
Pull the mic closer to you.
Can you hear me? Yes, we can. Okay, great. Well, thank you for all of our community attendees tonight. This means a lot that we can invite you guys to hear from you. What we're going to do tonight is kind of go through a little bit of the history of where we are, and then begin to explain the projects that we have at hand. And so really the goal is for us to kind of look at our options and figure out which one of the options seems to be our best fit for us to move forward. And then I just want to kind of lay some ground rules of what I've kind of observed. I'm new here, for those who don't know, I'm the new town manager, and it's easy for me to see things just objectively, since I haven't been here very long, and so I've had some time just to kind of give some thoughts about it. But before I give thoughts and things like that, I guess what I want to do is I just kind of want to set some expectations that I've seen it from my end, and then John Hosey and I, the outgoing manager, this past week was his last week, and then now I'm officially in the role. We've talked extensively about the projects or about the options. And it seems to me that if I were to lay down what my goal for tonight would be, how do we see these from a staff, from council, from community? How do we see these? And then could there be a criteria that we lay over this and say these are important to us? And then categorize these projects based on that. And I know John has prepared some presentations for us to look at. But I think my goal was always to try to simplify this. How do we look at it from a perspective to say, this meets our criteria or doesn't meet our criteria? And so narrowed it down that way. And I know this has been extensive history that we've spent time through this. So as I observed these projects, or listening to John explain to me, listening to some of you guys in our interactions over the past few weeks of talking about these projects, or these options, it seemed to me that there were at least 5 things that came out that I listened to council and other people, or even staff members. But 3 were like really the priorities that I've heard. And then, but in the discussions, there were 2 others. And so I just wanted to mention those things. And this became my guide as how I began to think through these options. And I guess I want to make sure that we're on the same page as how I've been thinking through this. Maybe I'm in the wrong, completely going off track. But these are the things that I've heard. The first one is, as I've been listening to staff needs, council needs, community needs, is safety has really been guiding this. You know, we want a safe place for staff to be in. So to me, a high priority when I'm thinking about this is that are these options is safety guiding us, safety of what the building, the conditions in, the safety of for our council members, for our community members, for us to have a safe place, because there's some major concerns in our current building, and I think that we've done the research. John in a minute will come up and give us a little bit of the past of where we are, but that's first one, safety. Second would be is accessibility. Accessibility for our community members to be able to have a place. Our community is aging, and these are second home communities, but our community is just not meeting that. And so that became a guideline, is to create an option that would meet that criteria of accessibility. And then John, you had mentioned something to tie into Excel, and I can't remember what the other one was.
Capability.
No, but with the accessibility. You had mentioned something to me earlier.
Oh, internal and external. So,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the internal, when we think about the accessibility, for us staff when we're doing it, but for our community, there's no elevators, there's no capacity for, in the options, when you're thinking about accessibility, I think some of that, it needs to be considered, but it's been a high priority for us when we're thinking through it. The third one is capability. Is the facility, is it designed for us to work efficiently and effective? So think about that. When we go through these options, these are the three things that I've heard staff consistently talk about for the council, but those will be kind of like the pressing ones that were guiding us and trying to think about things. However, what I have noticed in my conversations over the last 5-6 weeks is that there's two other ones that have been guiding this too. Another one has been I remember what it was. It was the walkability, walkability of the place. And some people love that it's downtown. It's convenient for us to walk. But by moving it to another place, now that's going to hinder the walkability or the getting there to a facility. So I would add that to the accessibility. That's what it was. The fourth one is parking. Does the facility allow parking for our staff or our council when we have council meetings, for the community, for them to come, but also for when we have larger meetings? Is it going to accommodate parking? And then the last one is something I have heard frequently. It may not be as high as number 1, 2, 3, or 4, but it still made the list when I was thinking through things, which was the character, the fit, the feel. We talked about from the beachfront master plan this. We're talking about making it feel like us, not becoming Ocean City or Virginia Beach, but the town hall would have the same feel, the fit, what we're used to, small town charm and all those kind of things. So I think that those are the things when I have looked at these options, I really want us to think about that. I guess the question I'm asking council, am I right on that by looking at those priorities? As when I'm thinking through the options of these, does it meet those criteria? I didn't mention, I had a preference of having all of us in the town hall together, like our police department and other things. That's another thing that's part of it, but I think that we can probably lump that into compatibility, that it's the continuity of services. I still lump it under the same thing, but I think it's important that you have your continuity of services. I didn't mention the council chambers because, again, that's continuity. I think it's important that we have all under one, especially when we have meetings. I can easily go back to my office. It's easy serving the public from this situation. Nor did I mention archiving all of our records. I think it's important that we have our records in town hall where we are. Now, granted, some of these options, it doesn't currently fit like that. I just included that with all the same. So as we go through this, I'm going to have John come up in just a minute or speak from where he's at and give us the history of where have we been, why are we in this situation, why is it now several years involved, and explain the situation. Walk through the 5, and then I want us to stop after each one and look at the 5 criteria. Does that really meet the 5 criteria? And let's rank them so that it allows the public, we'd like to hear from you as well in our discussions, but these are really important. Town hall for the staff, this is the highest priority for the staff right now, is to make sure that we go through this and have a great, safe place that we're in. I just want to make sure I set the table for us.
Well, I've got one other one that you haven't talked about is fiscal responsibility. There's a component of finances associated with this, and we can't get ridiculous on what we throw out there, right?
Okay, that's a great question. Is this physically responsible? And I think that should be a guide marker as we make decisions. So I'll look at the 6, and then we'll add the last one is physically responsible. Are we being
Fiscally.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Are we being the best stewards for our funds? Okay. So John, I'd like for you to take it away and kind of bring us up to speed of from the history of how we got here.
So I'm going to keep this fairly brief, but I just wanted to there's a lot of people who are new to the community, and we've done a lot of work on this over the last 5 years. One of the first things I did when I sat in that chair was what he's doing right now, was look at the new town hall. We knew, for all the reasons Rick mentioned, it was and inadequate space. So we identified that right away. The council identified that right away. It's been our #1 priority in the entire 5 years I've been here. We'd be sitting in the new town hall today if it wasn't for the post-COVID construction chaos and the escalated prices. So with that as a backdrop, this has always been important. We spent a lot of time on this about 3 or 4 years ago. And Bob put a lot of time into this, and we worked with council to come up with options. And we came up with 5 different options that we looked at, to look at all of our facilities in various combinations to figure out what made the most sense, both for the 3 main things that Rick identified, for safety, for accessibility, and for capability. Several of those options are no longer in play because they involve the library building. At one point we talked about perhaps keeping the library building and renovating the upstairs for town offices and doing other things. So really we're not going to spend much time talking about something that doesn't exist anymore. But the 2 big options that we did cover was, do we stay where we are? Do we just renovate town hall and will that work? Or do we need something else? Well, to do that, we had to do a study of a program first. So our architect evaluated all the departments, talked to all the staff. We programmed in how much physical space do we need, not just for today, but to allow for a little bit of growth. And we came up with a program number for that. Based on that number, the current town hall is too small. We couldn't fit everything we want in that space. We could put most of the admin functions in there, with the exception of the police. Police wouldn't be able to fit, and archives wouldn't be able to fit. But we could have gotten everybody else in there. So town hall, if renovated, would not be able to accommodate the police, archives, or the council chambers. That meant we had to build. We still had to do a new build. So there was going to be a new build in addition to renovating the the town hall, that would presumably be in the only place where we really had an option at the time, which was our lot over at the Cassette Parkway. That was the only space we had that was big enough to do what we want to do, with the exception of that lot that's way up by the Keck Wells, where there is no water and sewer, and it's even more remote. So really, as a practical matter, we only had one option for new build 3 or 4 years ago when we were looking at that, and that was the Cassette Parkway. So, looking at whether we renovate Town Hall and build a small building over there, or do we just build one big building over there and sell Town Hall, that was really kind of what the main discussion was. And at the time, the council decided it made much more sense for, again, some of the reasons that Rick articulated as far as efficiency and cohesion and all of that, to just build one building and build it over at the Cassette Parkway, where we have plenty of room. It is the geographic center of the town, although it's not, again, it's not convenient for walking, as was noted. So that's where, that's kind of the history where we are. Looking at those options today, it's the cost would probably be similar. Renovating Town Hall could probably be done for $2 to $3 million. But then the new build that would build something big enough for council chambers and police and archives would bring us back up to a total price of about what we would be paying for just building the one building anyway. So it's about a similar cost, except that if we renovated Town Hall, we wouldn't be able to sell Town Hall and then apply those proceeds to the project. So it could, again, when you take all those things into consideration, it's really not cheaper one way or the other, as far, you know, for the fiscal benchmark that Paul was talking about. So you're really looking at the other options that Rick mentioned when you're evaluating those. So that's our history. And as I said, had the construction market not been crazy, we would have bid this thing a long time ago. We'd be sitting in there now. While we were waiting for the market to cool, we tried a number of different things to try and get prices more reasonable. Another option became available. So 3 or 4 years ago, there was not an option to purchase the Meatland property. That is relatively new. It started last year. That became a possibility, and you all asked me to negotiate with the owners to see if that was possible. And it was by no means a guarantee. It's literally taking a full year to try and get that to a place where they've agreed to sell those properties at below market rate and have owner financing for it. When that discussion happened, when we started talking about the possibility of acquiring land to build town hall, because that was a new concept, because we weren't acquiring land up until then, we were building it on our own. Then community discussions started gathering some more, and then then another idea came forward, and that was to lease space at the church across the street. So we took some time to evaluate that as well. So there's two new options that have come to the table recently that weren't here 3 or 4 years ago when we looked at this. So that's kind of the history in a nutshell.
Well, we hadn't looked at the lots on Randolph that we own
Yes, we did.
at the time.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't an official option, but we
Yeah,
did.
it wasn't an official option. Yeah.
But we did
All right.
discuss those, and at the time, it was not something council wanted to pursue. I mean, I've always been told that the reason the town purchased those lots was to preserve the look and feel coming into the historic district. That's why we acquired them. Now, past councils can't bound current ones or future ones, and you can change your mind, but that's kind of it's always been my understanding is we have kind of a park-like area on the right coming into town. You've got New Routes on the left, and that kind of makes your corridor coming into town. So that plus it would have been a tighter fit there. Now we were having that discussion before the project was completely designed. So if we had it fully designed, you could see that it would fit in there. Maybe that would have gained more traction. I don't know, but we did talk about that at the time, and it was not something the council was interested in.
But it is now, and so I want to make sure that we have time to go through that option tonight. Yeah.
I have one question. At some point, the research that was gathered on how much square footage we need for different things and which different buildings would provide us was something that was in front of us, but I haven't seen that in a long time, and I feel like I want to put it for,
2022.
is it here on 2022?
No, I didn't add all the items,
Okay.
but I think in my history that I had sent to you guys.
It's roughly, it's a net, excuse me, it's a net square footage. Take the police and stuff aside. Of around 4,000 square feet. Net. That's without hallways, entrances, restrooms, elevators. Police need about 3,000 square feet, roughly half of that for a garage. Two-size, two-car garage, and half for other things like an armory, evidence room, offices, restrooms. That's roughly the numbers.
Right.
So look, as John said, there's a little bit of additional space built into that, but not much.
I was thinking of that document that said what the square footage was for this town hall. I just feel like our residents, that would be a beneficial thing in this packet of information.
I
Right.
have numbers here from that study.
Right, like financial numbers, but not square
No,
footage.
I have the square footage. I went back and on my,
Oh, on your sheet?
My notes.
Okay, okay. Yeah, okay. I'd like to, just for the record, to put that into the minutes so that we have, that the residents can see how we got to the first decision in moving forward were some of those numbers. I think it helped us to get to the next point.
This is roughly 1,300 square feet. The town hall is roughly 5,900 square feet.
right. Correct.
Oh, sorry.
So this building, is that right?
Yeah.
It's not going to be a mic.
This building is roughly 1,300 square feet. The town hall, 2 floors, is roughly 5,900 square feet.
Including police?
Yep.
No, that's.
The Muni building, the existing.
I understand.
Yeah.
Is that including the police department?
No, two different things.
No,
So-
yes,
The town hall,
yes,
does that include the police?
Yes.
yes.
But, yeah, both floors, 5,900 square feet.
It's the administrative and the police department plus another 13.
And the garage,
And
and the
garage.
bay.
Including, yeah, that's the.
Into the
total
microphone,
space
please.
Available, however you use.
Use your microphone.
So that's the total square footage available.
So a quick question on the meat land. If we were to go forward with that, there's roughly 14 lots, correct? Okay, exactly 14 lots. If we only needed 2 to increase the parking to make sure that it, would those other 12 lots still be then available for sale?
No.
If we could sell? Why?
They're only interested in selling all 14.
No. We buy them all.
Oh.
Why couldn't we sell the other?
Oh,
12?
absolutely, well, yeah. If you buy them, you can do anything you want with them.
Okay,
But
I'm just,
not if we do owner financing, because we wouldn't be able to do that until we actually have the deed for the entire
well,
property.
that's their fault. I mean, if
Well,
we
no,
sold.
that we couldn't sell them until we fully owned them, right? If we do the owner
That's true.
financing
Yeah.
with an endowment, and we're just making payments off of that endowment, we can't subdivide or sell any of those lots until we are the full owners, and we wouldn't be until we paid.
Well, I was thinking of the 12 lots, selling them for more than we bought them for and paying off all 14, is my thought process.
You'd have to pay them off
You have to
first.
pay by
We
first.
only have to buy them all first. We have to take that 2 million, let's pretend, or whatever that number is, and we have,
That's not true. It's just like when you sell your house, you're not paying off your house first before you pay it off. You're selling it to someone, they're bringing you cash, you take the cash, you pay off your home, which would be their lien. Have a nice day.
except that we're, when you own a home and you do that, you're actually on the deed at that point.
And you have a
Whereas we
mortgage for it.
wouldn't be if we're buying it, I'm assuming.
No, we're definitely on the deed still. They're
Not
just
if
on.
we're doing owner financing, right?
So,
How does that
so
work?
can I just add something here? That's true, but there is, you don't have to do that. I mean, there is sufficient capital, the town has sufficient capital to pay it off.
To buy it
If-
all at once?
Yes, if they,
So-
Well,
yeah.
I'm still gonna push back a little bit here. I've done private mortgages before where it's owner finance. It doesn't matter. You're still, the only way you have ownership is on deed and title. So you still take full deed and title of the land with that lien then on your deed. But it's just gonna say ABC owner
Yeah.
as opposed to Wells Fargo.
Right, they become your mortgagee.
That is correct. They're your mortgage.
So
Yeah.
you can then subdivide it and sell whatever lots you don't own?
Correct.
It's already subdivided.
Well, there's no
Sell off
subdivision.
whatever we're not using.
Yeah, I know.
Pardon me?
There's no subdivision.
Yeah, it's already done.
No, but for his, for Adam's suggestion, which is, hey, we buy it all, but if we don't want it all,
But there's a deed for each individual lot.
Correct. So you're just saying we do not have to subdivide anymore. It's already done.
got it.
And I hate to
Okay.
keep telling you, but grab that microphone, please. We're gonna get yelled at on Facebook.
Sorry, there's a deed for each individual lot.
But would that also then result in, because right now, the person wants yearly allotments, right?
Quarterly.
Quarterly. But they're not gonna want it paid off all at once, so that whatever we sign needs to have that ability to do it.
So that's a good point. So one of the negotiating points over the past year, this group of owners are looking for a long-term revenue stream. Which is why they were willing to sell us these lots at below market cost, was so that they could generate this revenue stream for 10 years. After 10 years, we can just buy it outright.
So we put in a prepayment penalty for 10 years. I mean, it's gonna take 3 years to build. So, again, just throwing it, just ideas, that's all. I mean, this is not,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking if we don't need 14 lots, and we can sell it at market value.
Yeah, for us to just flip it because they're giving up something to get something. So if they're not gonna get something, they're not gonna give it to us at the below market rate.
No, I
So-
understand, but I'm saying if it's a 10-year commitment, but in 10 years, there's a windfall, then it could be something to look at.
How is the town planning on paying for the cost of construction, no matter where it is?
We have sufficient reserves to do that. I've been putting that aside.
So really what the cost from being fiscally responsible comes down to is just location, right?
No.
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
Oh, you got options that
We're
are,
not gonna buy-
yeah, right.
We're not gonna build a building.
That's correct.
But then let me rephrase. The building of a building, right? We have the money for that, and we would expend that money on the building. The cost necessarily increases based on location and how much work you would have to do to the site or the acquisition cost of the site. Is that correct?
Land acquisition is the variable, yes.
Yes. But if we're talking specifically about just constructing a building, it would be the same cost no matter where you are, just the other pieces.
Yeah, the additional pieces as far as the site work, like they noted in the,
Sure, I thought we
but
said
yeah.
that meat land would be less because the site work's already
Right.
done,
From a
from a
construct-
construction standpoint.
The Meatland property allows you to overlay the existing plans that we've already paid for on that same plot of real estate, whereas we could still consider the 7 acres we already own, but that would require modifications. I mean, you know, you'd have to go through that plan and look at the fact that, you know, our chambers, you know, this has 112 seats. In here today, we have half of that. We have 56 essentially.
May I recommend that we just start at the beginning
here?
and go through each option? Just, I think to follow, for everybody to follow where we're at, it might help to just go through each option. Is that, I'm having a hard time kind of,
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
okay.
Yeah, just want to clarify just one thing you said.
Yeah.
The plans are designed for Casat Parkway,
Correct.
because I don't think we're going to be required to have BMPs when we have street drainage already there.
I'm just talking about the physical
Yes.
imprint of the structure that has been designed
Yeah.
would fit, as John has outlined, where it would not really fit essentially on our existing on the 7 acres that we already own. Is that correct? 7 lots, I'm sorry, 7 lots.
Yeah. So I think Tammy gave us a great recommendation. Let's go through the options, because instead of just kind of going through rabbit holes and so forth, I think what would be good is we'll take one of them, one of the options. Let's look at it. John's prepared some pros and cons. I think that there's probably a lot more for us to discuss in that, so we may see a lot more pros or even more cons as we talk through that. But I think this is just a starting position for us to look at. So the first one, John, is the town-owned parcel on Cassette Parkway.
I think you have the clicker to advance the slide. Point it at the computer, not the TV.
It's turned off.
Let's see. On the side, is it showing red or green?
Nothing. It's just blank. Okay.
Look at some over here. I'll sell them. Look at me.
I loaded you up.
Maybe it'll be better.
It's working perfectly.
This is our first prank, by the way.
It's a fake remote.
Our first break.
Okay, I'm gonna go closer.
I was gonna say.
We could just say, next slide, next slide, next slide, next slide.
Just show me which button to press and,
Page down.
The arrow by,
Should be page down. How many boomers does it take to,
So we need to add audio visual to our, our items.
that's
I know, I'm
There you go.
just joking.
that's why you need a new council
I'm
chambers.
joking.
Want to have these official
Yes.
yes go?
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Now we're good.
the presentation.
Great, perfect.
You passed your first prank.
There you go. You guys.
It'll only get better from here.
Okay, so as you see, we have 4. I'm going to let John go through these, but let me see. Okay, so Town Hall owned parcel on Cassette Parkway, which is 2.1 acres. And these are,
Well, just go through those first and then, yeah.
okay, so here's the assumptions, just what we know about the property. Current building design, We know it's 2 floors, includes council chambers and police garage. Overall building footprint is approximately 71 feet by 138 feet, which is 9,798 square feet. The net integral, sorry, I'm having a hard time seeing. The net internal program space is approximately 7,000 square feet. Excludes entrances, hallways, restrooms, stairwells, elevators, etc. Cost estimate is 7.3 million, and this was from 2023. Escalated to 7.8 million today. Upwards pressure of new tariffs unknown. These are still speculations. Questions before we go to next?
How much, when did we acquire the site on Casat Parkway?
We've had it for a long time. We just recently
Yeah,
re-subdivided it.
yeah, the town's owned it for lots and lots and lots of years. It was originally part of the STIP. It was leased to the Industrial Development Authority, and when the STIP went
Can you tell me what STIP
Kerplunk,
means? Can you elaborate on STIP for?
Sustainable Technology Industrial Park, and it was something built by the, I guess wasn't it a joint IDA, county in Cape Charles? All 4 towns. And you know where the Waco Chemical Building is? That was the only building that was built. It was built with a bunch of grants that were cobbled together that made it impossible to have a profitable business. Classic case of build it and they will come, and they never came. So anyway, that parcel was, as well as the parcels where the Yacht Center are now, were leased to the IDA, and when that all went kerplooey, the town got them back. We got them off lease, and this parcel was the remainder of a subdivided parcel where we gave a whole bunch of the wetlands to the Rosenwald School Restoration Initiative. 2008, and the
Evaluation of this property, what's it currently valued at?
no, we don't have an appraisal. But
I think that would be interesting information to have.
It's commercial.
It is zoned commercial, correct?
it's yeah, Harbor Commercial.
Then our
Yeah.
decision to just get an
Oh, C1? Yeah.
Does anybody agree that we should probably get an appraisal of that property? I know we talked about holding on to it for the future when that area turns commercial, but I feel like knowing what its value is now is important.
But to get an appraisal if we don't build there to sell it?
Correct.
Okay.
It's too
Or to even just know what, what we're
Well, we should
what we're
have,
sitting on.
we should have an assessed value from the
We have
town
an
on
assessed
that.
value.
Right,
It's not much.
right.
Okay.
Tax assessed value is what you're
Correct.
saying, yes.
Right.
That's probably different than
That's
on the
correct.
market. So
You
we
could
understand
likely
what that
double the
is.
assessed value.
And so,
You could likely double the assessed value easily.
so
Which
what
is
is
sitting
the
at-
assessed value?
I don't know.
We've never had a reason to look at it.
Okay,
Yeah.
Well, we could look it up right now.
We own it, we were gonna build on it, so we didn't.
okay.
All right, so if you, again, these are just assumptions. The current site plan, when we go back, like, what was that designed for? Well, it was really developed for the Casat Parkway. When we got those plans put together, which includes parking, sidewalks, driveways, utilities, and stormwater management plan, which is also, I think, referred to as BMPs. Others have said that. The simple overlay of a site plan prepared for the 2 Randolph Avenue sites was intended as initial test fit only. So our plan really was designed for the Casat, sorry. Randolph overlays do not include adjustments for the required setbacks, parking, SWM, et cetera, stormwater management. We would most likely have to do some design review adjustments, get them to work on things. But that's normal, by the way. When you do a property, you want it to fit exactly what you're looking at. And so, but again, these are just how we've gotten here today, where we had to start somewhere, and that's where it was. No site adjustment applies to the Trinity United Methodist Church as is already developed site. So that's just, we know that, but at least we're going to go ahead and communicate that. So now we're going to look at the next slide, which is the actual Casat Parkway overlay, overall view, so you can see it. John, you have any comments on this?
No.
No? Okay. I think we all know where that site location is, correct? Yeah.
Rick, thank you. Just one comment. So you appreciate the, what you're looking at here. The site, obviously on the south side is Casat Parkway. On the east side is Old Cape Charles Road. It is not that full stretch all the way to Old Cape Charles Road. The 2.1 acre site ends where you see that little kind of alley easement into the Rosenwald School property. And that kind of panhandle of the site there is encumbered by non-tidal wetlands.
Right.
And everything to the north of that is tidal wetlands. So even though it's a 2.1 acre site, it's not really 2.1 usable acres unless you offset the non-tidal wetlands, you know, through something else. So.
All right.
Okay, here's a more focused view of the site plan. John, you have any comments? All right, so now we'll look at the actual pros and cons of the Casat Parkway. Pros, no land acquisition cost, it's ours. Second, site plan's already developed. Third, everything fits because it was developed to fit. Fourth, near geographic center of town. It's pretty basic, you know, it's the center of how, from the old side of town to the new growth of Bay Creek and so forth. Cons, well, let me stop there before pros. Does anyone else have any more pros to add as you're thinking through this?
Well, it doesn't apply to just this one, but just as a, for everyone's, it didn't get put on here because we were not evaluating the option of renovating town hall. But just, if we build in one of these locations, it will be the construction costs can be offset by the sale of town hall and the sale of the civic center. So I just wanted to put that out there.
And noted that that could apply to all of them except for the Trinity School, or Trinity Church.
Do we have or can we get a valuation on that property or an assessment on these two properties?
We've tried to estimate that, and the market has just gone crazy since we last did it. But I don't know, correct me, Bob, if you think this is off, but between town hall and the civic center, we're probably at $1.2 million, $1.3 million, maybe?
Well, I mean, you're sitting on a residential lot here, a small building, residential lot. Sorry. A naked residential lot in town selling for $250 now, right? So maybe more. Okay, so we're probably sitting on $500,000 here with this structure. And you could probably guess that the town hall, prime commercial location, got to be $1 million, $1.5 million.
At least 8 or
Yeah.
more,
Yeah.
depending on condition of the building. So
Yeah, the building's in ratty condition. I mean, it really is.
But it's a historic structure, so whoever buys it's got to renovate it.
Yeah.
So there's that. But yeah, the point is that you're looking at somewhere between $1 million and $1.5 million that could be that would offset the cost of construction for whatever new build you decide to do.
Thank you.
Okay, so still looking at pros before we move on to the cons, but so I guess I could say, no, we'll do that afterward. So I was going to go through our rating system. Adam?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
No.
Cons, extensive site work required. Can you elaborate that a little bit more, John, so people understand what that means?
Well, it's a green site, so it means it's gotta be completely developed
Okay.
versus a site that's already been developed.
All utilities, electric, water, sewer.
Okay.
Gets to number 2.
The next one, it requires longer water and sewer connection easement. So, because it doesn't have currently right now.
Well, it's a relative thing, so it's longer than the Randolph options, where it's closer.
Gotcha.
And then requires longer golf cart path easements. And then lastly, it's not easily walkable, which is something we mentioned earlier as far as people wanting to just walk to your normal amenities in your town. This is not one of those. It's a long walk. Anybody else have any other comments before I go through the rating of this?
Go right ahead, sir.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
I said, go right ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So, I looked at criteria of how to rate this one. And so I've got 6 now. So I guess I want to make sure that we're on the same page. Is this option considered a good safety option for the town?
Yes.
Yes. Second was accessibility. Would this be a good option to accomplish that goal?
Some of it.
Half of it.
Half of
The
it,
internal
yeah.
part, but not the external part.
Exactly. Yeah. So
50%.
so I'll give it a half.
There you go.
Number
I would
3.
say it's equally accessible or equally inaccessible to the entire community, so it's almost the best bet, right? In
Well-
terms of accessibility.
Well, and just evaluating this one, the 2 things he gave us was for residents and staff as far as internal accessibility and then walkability.
So accessibility once you're in the building and accessibility getting to the building.
Yeah.
So once you're in the building, it's accessible. It's designed that way.
So getting to the building.
But getting to the building is the half that we don't have.
I would say it's equally accessible getting to the building for people. It is,
It's not convenient for either.
Inaccessible for both.
But we're not comparing, we're just evaluating this one.
Yeah.
It's
But
accessibility.
It says in a 10, because can you walk there easily?
It's still a pain in the butt for
well,
anybody to walk.
sure, you can walk to one here in town easily, half the community can.
That's right, it'd be a 5 as well.
Okay, I would say this one is the most equitably accessible or inaccessible, yes.
And you can make that point every single time. If you wanted to, narrow it down to that, everyone is going to equally, because it's not going to be for the whole community. However, let's just grade them.
Okay.
And then and I think this will help us move towards a better option. Third one is, it's the capability for your staff, for your council, for your community. Would you consider this one meets that goal?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, this one is the feel factor. It's the character. Does it meet what we're looking for when you think of town hall? Is it the fit and feel of a town hall in this location?
What about parking? Where did that?
That's the
I
last
thought-
one. Or we're not there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're just looking at the character, the fit, the feel of, it's beautiful. It's that touchy feely of like the
There it
same
is,
thing.
Absolutely.
It's the same thing of what we're looking at beachfront master plan. Is this the feel of who we are? Small town charm means something to us.
I don't know, that
It's
fits
gonna be
pretty.
the same building though, no matter where we put it, pretty much, at least in terms of how we're looking at it,
But
so.
built in with the Rosenwald School in the larger
It
campus.
is, yeah.
I think what Rick's trying to get to, does this enhance the larger community look and feel? So yes, the building's the building, it's gonna look the same no matter where you put it, right? So is the visual impact gonna be as great on Cassett Parkway as it is on Randolph? I can guess where he was going with that.
Yeah, exactly.
No, because it really doesn't matter as much as it does coming into the heart of town.
Yeah, because you potentially have warehouses lay down across the street right now, depending upon what happens there.
Okay,
And
so
it's a beautiful building.
I'm gonna say
It's a 10.
no on this one. It doesn't have the same feel as it would in town. Parking. Is this gonna meet the need for the parking needs that we have? Okay, I agree.
I would challenge that. I would say this will help parking for people coming to see or go do work in town hall, but it doesn't help any overflow parking to offset any of the parking issues we have downtown.
That's a great point. Because no, I mean, John and I actually talked about that point of like, we have a need for parking downtown. This does nothing for accomplish that need. So yes, will it allow people to park at town hall? Yes, we have no problem with that. But that's not really our big problem. It's providing parking for overflow needs. It's the same thing that our current town hall option doesn't do that either. We're not providing enough parking for even just normal people coming in. You've got to fight to find a place.
Well, there's zero parking.
Are we suggesting that the others do provide that parking?
Maybe.
They're just as far. I mean, we could use that parking and shuttle people at either location, in any of the
Show
locations.
people from where?
From any of the
Sounds
locations.
like a good business
I was
idea.
gonna say, in this location, would you want overflow parking for
No,
that?
that's why I say, I don't think that this solves the parking issue. It helps for parking when you have business to do in town, but it does not provide any overflow parking for downtown.
So would you give this a half? Or would you give it a zero?
No, not a
I
zero.
would-
Not a zero, a half.
I would back up and ask, the intent was never to have
Yes.
overflow
Yeah,
parking.
that's
It's
what
a
I'm
new
asking.
objective. So,
Yeah, but it's a great bonus.
But none of them do.
Well,
is
well,
what
I
I'm-
would-
they'd
Wheatland does.
That's a good
Wheatland
point.
Be
does.
the equal distance.
Paul, that's a great point.
It'd be
The whole, the
equal
context
distance.
is the town hall, providing parking to meet the needs for our staff, our council, and our community.
Right.
That's the real context of this. But there is fringe benefits of providing parking, so,
Well, it's-
no, I don't agree with that.
When Rick and I were talking about this, that was, again, this is low-hanging fruit, extra stuff. It was never part of the plan. But, the Meatland property is probably large enough to cover all the parking needs that we would need for town hall, plus a little more. I don't know how much more, we haven't designed it, but yes, I think there could be more parking available in this area at Meatland than at Casat or on the other lots. That's all we're saying is that, so there would be some additional benefit there, because you would have a little bit more parking, and it would be conveniently located.
yeah, and I agree. This provides the parking needs we need. So we should give it a point, to be in all fairness, because it doesn't take away, it's not a hindrance. So I gave it a
It
point.
checks the box.
It does check the box.
But
And the one that Paul added, fiscal responsibility. Is just being a good steward with the funds. Just,
To me, it's a comparison thing.
yeah, you'd have to get into a comparison, that's right. You know, just flat out saying 10 million or whatever for this one, I can't,
Compare
without
to what?
comparing
Yeah.
it to the other options.
but we gotta rate it though.
Unless that becomes a last point, once we do all the other things, and then you take all of them together and say which one comes out.
Well, that's
last.
another point. Should we use the 5 criteria to then get down to the last one, which would be fiscal?
That'd be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, that one's gonna
That
have to
one,
wait.
I
till the
think-
end.
Okay, so we just take that off for right now.
And just to give a quick, the land is assessed at $105,000 on Casat.
On where?
Casat, you asked that.
Where, it's assessed, tax assessed.
Correct.
So double that, 200,000? That's,
I'm just saying that's the assessed value, 104,600.
okay. Well,
And we had already talked, again, previously, that if this is built-out area with Bay Creek, commercial and what have you, the price of land is gonna go up.
Correct.
Yeah.
Especially the commercial, since it's so little.
Which is a good thing for us, even if we don't build on it. That land will become more valuable in time.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah. All right, ready to move on to the next one?
Move on.
So our next option is the former Meatland on Randolph Avenue. Okay. So pros, it removes an eyesore and creates a highly desirable upgrade for the entrance corridor into the historic district. Walkable location with easy golf cart access. Everything fits with extra room for additional parking and landscaping. Less costly site development, because it's going to be $600,000 less, because we've already paid for the development, and that's going to fit. No site clearing, existing parking lot, nearby utilities. So It's just gonna be much cheaper.
It's close, again, it's close to utility hookups, and the site's already been developed.
I got one question on that, and this probably falls under the cons. On the 7 acre parcels, you got stormwater retention required there, but not on this property right next door.
Well,
What's up with that?
our assumption is it's already paved, so that's the requirement for more stormwater retention is probably not gonna be as stringent there
Can
as
it
if you
be-
go somewhere where it's
Are you-
already permeable, like the 7 lots or on Cassat Park.
Yeah, so you're talking about basically digging in, connecting to the existing pipes for street drain, street runoff.
I'm sorry, connecting to,
So, yeah, so we cannot connect to the stormwater fields we already have now?
I don't know that there's any stormwater drainage there at all now.
Sure, it's gotta be. There's curbs all over the place, and the curbs, water hits the curbs and goes to the stormwater.
It really doesn't matter. It's a very complicated pre-development, post-development analysis where they,
I just find it weird that you can, 7 lots right next door, you're gonna cost you $250,000 more to put some sort of underground stormwater.
yeah,
It's nuts. That doesn't make any sense when you have street drainage.
yeah.
Well, Katie, can you take some time to explain it?
Under the state statute of stormwater, you actually cannot have your water drain off your property. You have to retain it and treat it on its property. So you cannot rely upon street drainage or onto another property. So one of the things with the meat land, yes, while it is paved, so while it is paved, and there's already an existing building, so that already sets a standard of what is the pre-development occurring for stormwater usage. So yes, in your plan, you're proposing to demolish the building, but you're putting in an equal size or potentially lesser. I didn't look at the whole square footage calculation. So it will be lesser, new development going on, so there might be a trade-off on the meat land property requiring no further, may I finish? Sorry. That may not require any further stormwater treatment, ponds, or any other capacity built into the meat land property. So that's,
So, is that for commercial or residential too? Because every residential lot that's being built now has swales on the side of the yard and they drain out to the street.
there's an
Every last one of them.
exemption under the state law, under 1 acre for residential development. That does not have to comply with the state statute on stormwater.
That's just nuts. And we're in a flat area. This is what drives me nuts about these laws. Comparing us to Roanoke, it's unnut. It's not right.
Adam, did you have something too?
It's flat.
No, sir.
No? Okay. All right, cons. Significant acquisition cost, $3.5 million. The demolition of existing buildings required at least $100,000. And again, these, we'd have to get real numbers, but this is speculative, but it's a good start. New site plan required, $60,000. And that's just because we'd have to change some things just to make it work. But that's normal when you're taking a site plan, we're gonna make it work for that site location. 4, removes commercial property from the tax rolls. So that is a con. It goes back to, could we do more with the property later on, to retain that? That may be where there's a pro into that.
Well, I think that con goes away because Elizabeth's gonna be building on lots that she has out there, so there's gonna be new revenue coming in also.
Well, they're already, they're already getting revenue from that.
They're getting revenue from the taxes, but I'm saying if she moves her business and she starts renting carts there, that same revenue that's now on meat land is gonna move over to where she moves to the lots.
All right, but I got a real estate tax assessment
Yeah,
on, 18 properties here that are minimal right now, but if somebody comes in, that goes through the roof. All right, so yeah, I agree, it's a wash for her to move her business, but this is a huge removal of a potential income to the town and county.
I have a question then. Are those lots, what is this, 14 lots, are they zoned commercial right now?
CR, right?
She has 3 in the front, and I think it's R1 in the
So
back.
we're like commercial first floor, residential on top.
She is leasing.
No.
Just saying the zoning for all 14 lots.
They're zoned C2.
C2 is right.
All 14 are C2.
All 14,
Okay.
they're C2.
And the Randolph lots.
C2.
C2, they're all the same.
So it's really 21 lots there. these 14 plus our 7.
Correct.
But right now, the only revenue we're seeing from them is the business,
Real estate.
and the real estate is nominal because it's a low assessed value, is that correct?
Probably 5,000 a year we get for just the
400,000,
lot.
And you're getting
Yeah,
$600.
each of those 14 lots are currently assessed at $302,000 each.
And so they're giving us how much? Say what that dollar figure is.
Well, I'm
right?
saying I'm going to the county tax rolls, and I see the combination of those lots were $405,000 total,
Value? No.
assessed, and getting $600 when you apply our numbers, our tax, real estate.
I thought they're all individual parcels, they're only, why are they
Yeah,
assessed
but
all
the
together?
county groups them, if it's like one owner or whatever. So if you go there and you look it up, they'll say lots 61
Yeah.
through 87 or whatever for that parcel, and as you look up each parcel, it says the same thing.
So it's not that per parcel, it says the total?
That's how I'm reading it.
But,
So it's really no revenue that we're getting from
No.
that.
Right now.
the main point of that is not what we would be giving up in its current state. It's very minimal. It's what we would be potentially be giving up in the future, a fully developed commercial parcel.
Right.
So going back to
And then-
my case then, about that, if we take as many as we need and then sell off the other parcels, we're right back in the same boat that we're talking about right now, to where we could even be making more revenue because they'll be sold off as individual parcels.
Sure, but some of this feels a little bit like we're rolling the dice on what the future's gonna
Correct.
hold, you know? And the same thing with the land on Casad. You know, we're saying, well, we hold on to it and sell it way off in the future when that area gets all developed. And to me, we can't predict the future.
We can't either way though.
No, with either one of these two options, correct?
That's a good point. We know that development is moving east. And so, you know, when I'm thinking of cons, you know, like, is there other cons to this? It's a lot of property. It's a lot of money. You know, when you're thinking about that, of like, this is a great location, and then we'll go through our goals. Does it meet the goals in just a second for us to be objective about it? Is there any others that we didn't touch on?
Yeah, I would say we would be putting out $3.5 million. If the price of the new building is to the point, as it has been in the past, where we can't afford it, which is why we didn't build, then we're still paying on $3.5 million, but we get nothing for it, other than eventually we would own the property. So to me, that's a potential con to spending $3.5 million.
Right, I thought we weren't spending 3.5. I thought we were putting 2
In escrow.
in escrow or
Endowment.
endowment.
Oh, sorry, endowment, right.
An endowment. So we would actually be spending just the 1.5. Is that correct? Am I doing this math right? The total cost is 3.5. And we were putting 2 million into an endowment. Does that mean we're taking 1.5 million as a down payment?
No, so the terms right now is 20% down, so it's a $700,000 down payment. Then it's financed, owner financed over 20 years. The endowment would cover approximately 30% of the debt service. So over that 20 years, you know, we would only be paying 70% of what we would otherwise be paying. At the end of the term, then we would still have that $2 million. So you have the 30% savings throughout the time of the loan, and then at the end, you still have $2 million.
And another question I asked John earlier today was, how does that affect our debt service and the percentage that we have set guidelines on? And John, can you expand upon that? Because I think that's good for the public to hear that.
So the council set our debt service at 8% of our core revenues, and this would fall within that. So, and 8% is very, very conservative. That's very low. I mean, most communities are probably between 8 and 12%. So we're at the very low end, and we're below that 8% now in the
It used to be 10.
So I just want to be clear to go back to the financing piece, because I think this speaks to what Ken was saying. We'd be out 700 as a down payment. Then we would be out the revenue generated from the endowment. Any other set of circumstances, you would have an endowment, and the revenue that's generated, you would just put back into your own coffers, correct?
If you kept it.
If you kept it,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
now
yeah.
we're out that revenue because we're paying it toward our monthly or quarterly payments for this, correct?
Theoretically, but I will add that I've never seen a political body just hold on to money for no reason. So that money would go away. So it's not, this isn't generating new money, it's preserving money that we have now into the future.
Yes.
But it's still earmarking capital for one particular purpose. I mean,
Yes.
capital we could put in an endowment for anything that we decided to do in this town, including the construction of the
Correct.
building, wherever we
Correct.
decide
As
to
long as you have the
ultimately
discipline
put
to
it.
put it aside, yes.
Well, I would
So
do
quick
a
calculations
bond
would be about 1.4 million going out for the building over 10 years.
For the land, not the building.
No, oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Right.
For the land, yes,
For
you're
the
absolutely
land.
correct.
And at the end, we would still retain 2 million in principal,
And whatever lots we still had as well.
and whatever lots we wanted to turn around and sell.
That is correct.
So, looking at it from that sort of investment lens, it's a lot different than saying, we're just gonna spend $3.5 million and have nothing in return. We actually could make a good amount of money off of this by virtue of having the endowment money come back into our coffers and selling some of the lots that we don't use.
That's,
I have my hand up.
Sorry.
So that would be a pro. I would say that would be a pro. It's a long-term investment as well. We're gonna be ahead of the game long-term.
possibly.
Tammy's
Yeah,
got
I
it
know
right now.
exactly.
We're all talking around Tammy.
That's okay, because it's a little bit on that subject, but it's similar. My biggest concern about this one is the uncertainty of the ownership. You know, it's owned by a family that's making this agreement, and I don't want this to sound callous, but they're older people. We would need to make sure in our arrangement that it's very clear what would happen over these 10 years. That makes me just anxious as far as uncertainty, knowing how those types of things work themselves out.
So that's been addressed in the draft agreement.
Okay,
that-
so-
That we've worked out. So, I mean, the town would take title of it, just like you would if you're getting a mortgage.
Okay.
And then if one of the partners were to pass, it would go to their heirs, and they would inherit their portion.
I would assume it'd actually be closing in a trust anyway, as opposed to in their personal names. They probably have a living trust set up.
I wouldn't be
They-
I wouldn't, yeah,
They have
seeing
enough,
what we've seen of late,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
they have enough LLC they're using.
Okay.
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 Okay, so
I think that's one of those things that goes into in the sense of, it's a little uncertainty of those pieces of it, and I just think we can't forget that part
I
of it.
agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
And are we talking 10 years or 20 years?
It's a 20-year term, but we can buy them out after 10. They're looking for a 10-year revenue source.
I think it's really important to point out to people here and people watching on Facebook that although we're talking about like specifics of an agreement, that you understand that, I know in the past, people have criticized the town and council for essentially already making up their minds and then telling the public after the fact and letting you talk, and yet we're taking really not anything into consideration. But I mean, maybe you're just taking my word for it, but we have not decided on any of this
You're
yet.
stealing my thunder.
And I'm sorry. And even as I listen to it, I've had these feelings like, gosh, we've got, we're down the road, which we had to be in negotiations so that we knew what we were actually looking at in order to make a
Yeah.
decision. But we haven't already penned this thing. And I'm just asking people to trust me that we're right there with you, having the same thoughts that you all are about, what the best path forward is for the town, so.
Right. So if I could just chime in on it. Council asked me to see if this was a possibility. Okay, you charged me with it. We didn't even know if it was a possibility. It's taken me a year to come back with the answer. Yes, it's a possibility. But until recently, we didn't know if this was even an option for us. we had to go through those steps and to try to negotiate something that would work for both parties, not because we decided, but because we were trying to decide, is that something we want to put on the table? So, yes, a lot of those, a lot of those negotiations were confidential because they have to be, their contract negotiations. So I guess it gives the perception that we're working behind closed doors when that was not the case at all. We were just trying to come up with, is there an option? And if there is, here it is, then we can take it public and we can see what we want to do. And that's where we are now, is we've negotiated an agreement, a tentative agreement, both sides are willing to consider. If you were to give direction to bring it forward, then the next step would be to bring that forward in a public meeting for a discussion, and you would decide then.
Okay, I just want to rehash just to make sure we're all on the same page. We did add a fifth one in the pros, which was there's a potential. I'm going to make sure I hear it's potential investment of long-term where we would still get our $2 million back because it's an endowment. And then the second one of that would be we could sell off the parcels that we don't need for the development. So it's a pro. We also added a con, and the uncertainty of the market may also force us, we could buy this, but then we won't be able to build on it because of the tariffs potentially skyrocketing the cost. And now those funds are now, involved in this that we couldn't do anything with.
Well, that's a con on every one that we're building.
Yeah, it is, but it needs to be noted. It needs to be noted.
Agreed.
All
So,
right.
with the money-making component, I get that we get our endowment back, but you said that the endowment's essentially only gonna cover 30% of the outlay on the debt service, so there's still a 70% of the debt service that we're incurring, so over a 10-year period, so I don't know
Yeah,
that,
we're not gonna make money on this deal.
yeah, I don't see this as a,
We got interest to pay too.
yeah.
We got interest over 20 years. We're not gonna make money off this.
No, unless you sell the lots,
Still covered.
some
Over
of
10
those
years.
lots that you don't use.
So, yes, but that's not the option we're considering. We're considering building on this lot. So now when you get to the next one, using the 7 lots, that's the one where it's that's the one where maybe it's a pro, because then you could buy the lot next door and sell off what you don't need. But this option, we're gonna be building on these lots. We're not selling these off.
You're correct. We're co-mingling right now.
Yes,
So,
yeah, so be careful you don't cross your
Apologize.
pros and cons.
You're right. So let's
So
let's
as
take
I-
that
I
pro
look at
off.
this whole- As I look at this overlay though, the back, what, 5 lots don't look
Okay,
like.
remember, that was a very, very rough overlay.
Hey, that's why we're talking about it.
Do this.
DG.
See,
That's gonna be the code now.
this is the beauty of us discussing it. Okay.
All right, I think we move on to.
Well, hold on. Let's
Oh.
rate them.
Oh, sorry,
rate
sorry. I
them.
need to rate.
Okay. Does this meet the criteria of safety?
Yes,
Yes.
Does this meet the criteria of accessibility?
Yes.
yes.
Does this meet the criteria of capability?
Yes.
Yes.
Does this meet the criteria of character, the feel and look of the town?
Yes.
Well,
Matter of judgment.
it depends on what the building looks like.
It's the same building though.
Yeah,
We're
it
building
might,
the same building, aren't we?
it might go into a different design slightly because of the size, the lots.
I don't know
No,
that it
meat
fits.
No,
We're talking about meat land now. We're not talking about anything
Yeah.
else. Just meat land. Would the same building fit on meat land? Yes.
Yeah, they've laid it
As
out.
it is.
It'll fit,
Yeah,
yes,
but-
but not the character, I
No,
don't
no,
think.
no.
Okay,
He was bringing up, do we have
Okay.
to make any changes structurally?
I
okay.
think the time we was talking about, is it an improvement?
Right.
So is that gonna be an improvement over what we have now?
Yes.
Yes.
It- Obviously, for what we have now,
So yes, and then if that's the ultimate location you choose, you may want to tweak the exterior design
Yes.
slightly than you would have over Rick side.
and that's where I'm going, is both of those things.
But that gives you the option to
Yes.
do that
Yeah.
here.
So the character, just looking at the character, doesn't necessarily fit as our interest to our historic district. It doesn't have that look and feel is where I'm going.
Gotcha.
It is a grand improvement from what was there.
Yeah.
There's no
Okay,
question.
But that's a good point, Tammy.
Yeah.
And when I was originally thinking of that, I didn't think of it that way. I wasn't
Okay.
going with the actual look of it. I was going with the feel of having a town hall in that area versus somewhere else.
Yes.
It gives you that same, it's charming, it's connected with, it's the feel of a downtown. You know, when you go into a downtown of an area, you usually find a town hall there. It is not normal to find one way outside of town. And so it meets that same of like, oh, that's the character, the fit, the feel of a town hall. that's really where I was going with it. But I do see what you're saying. If you build a building, it's just a metal building. Now the character doesn't necessarily look the aesthetic of what you would think of a town. So, but we can also tweak it too. These are, was it conceptual, or is it gone?
No, that's
pretty much
that's
the drawing.
That's it.
design.
Okay.
Just a note, you tweak the exterior.
That's correct.
Cha-ching, cha-ching.
That's correct.
Yeah, change
I
order.
understand that, but going into it, Katie, I guess this is now gonna be to you. If it is, well, I guess that isn't historic district, so, right?
No.
No, it's on the
No.
inside.
Okay, so never mind, no question.
Okay. The last criteria, does it fit parking?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It is in the historic district?
It is.
Oh,
So
sorry,
being in the
sorry.
historic district,
Fletcher's where it cuts off, right?
so it would have to go through.
With new build standards,
Correct.
yeah.
That's fine,
Yes,
but it'll still
But it would be
be to your point.
Yeah, there would be tweaking, and yes, that does cost money, but that's where if it's gonna fit there, it needs to fit into the historic.
But its consideration of architectural is in context to its neighborhood, which
Right.
won't be much.
Right.
Agreed, okay, gotcha.
So it needs to look like Vance's? Yeah.
Chairs out front, yes.
Okay.
All right.
All right, moving on.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
The third option is the town parcels on Randolph Avenue. This is the current 7 lots that we own. And this is an overlay of showing the design fitting on that. So it does go over a little bit, but I don't know, Bob, do you have any comments?
Well, the only comment is that the main challenge here is stormwater management. And again, the BMPs, or the stormwater management ponds that you see, were designed to fit on a parcel that had room. And there are a lot of ways that you can deal with stormwater management. So they would have to be redesigned, perhaps with underground storage. That's not uncommon. It's done in tight situations. So I wouldn't be alarmed that you see like a big pond there, where's the other pond? The other pond's missing. The engineers can take care of that. That's not an issue.
And the site plan difference from the other one is because of the stormwater management? 160 and 175?
The
The
I'm
rent,
sorry.
the Meatland, new site plan required is 60,000 or more.
Yes.
And the other one's
yes.
75
Yeah,
because of
We're
that.
guessing it would
Yeah.
cost a little bit more
Okay.
to redesign the stormwater management.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that would be the case for sure. We'd have to get their eyes on this to make some adjustments. So yes, that would be an incurred cost.
Ricky to do it for free.
Bob, question for you on footprint versus height and expense. And I'm not necessarily advocating 3 stories, but how would that potentially change cost?
Redesign. Yeah,
Well,
we
yeah,
could have
but-
significant redesign costs. We'd have to be cognizant of the height restrictions in that area. 35, we'd probably still make it at 35. You can have probably a beefier elevator type thing, going 3 stories. Less roof area, obviously, but more walls. I don't know exactly what the trade-off is.
Smaller ponds.
Yeah, that's fair.
And there's some ability, if we needed to, in redesign, to make some of the bigger spaces, lobbies and chambers and things like that, we could reevaluate the size of
I'm
those.
telling you, every time you talk that way, the design goes through the roof.
Oh, yeah, but I'm just saying those would be the factors to do that. I'm not saying that would be a good idea, but in order for it to fit onto that space in a new way, it would need to be a redesign, correct?
I don't think so. I think
Well, the building
footprint
fits.
works.
The
Would
building
fit.
fits, just,
With parking.
there might have to do a little street parking. There's an area out front that you can do street parking. We might have to grab a little of the parcel across the street that's unused for parking. But that, we could work through that.
The parcel across the street that's not used.
New routes.
That's what I thought.
I mean,
Let's call that what that is. Just wanted to make sure. I realize that's town property, but I wanted to make sure we all knew
it's the
what that
equivalent of
parcel.
5 town lots.
Yes.
It's a $1.25 million property, and it's not all being utilized to grow vegetables. So, I mean, there could be some amount peeled off for parking.
I'm sorry, can you say that again? $1.25 million piece of property is the New Roots Garden right now?
Well, if you take the
not
value,
assessment.
the negotiated value of the purchase of meat land at $250 a pop,
Is that 4 lots?
times
or
5.
Or 3?
Times 5.
And what's the, while we're talking about the lots on Randolph, what's the value of the, what did you say, 7 lots that we own on?
Kate-
They're 302 as well. They're the same as the Meatland lots.
So that's 7 lots there, that we, what you said historically is that those were set aside, left blank, open as part of sort of the entrance corridor but if we moved to Meatland property, theoretically, then you would no longer need that opening into town. You could do that actually at Meatland, correct?
It's your choice. I mean,
It would be
depends on how you
kind of
interpret
odd to go past the town hall and then see a welcome to Cape Charles sign, correct?
I see what you're saying, there's plenty of
Right.
arithmetic.
So you could easily sell New Roots Garden and the other 7
I'm gonna
lots
kill her.
and buy Meatland and now put New Roots Garden and the
I will kill
opening
her.
corridor into town on this Meatland property. I know I'm not advocating to sell New Roots Garden. I realize that this is, I get it, but you could have a New Roots Garden,
it would
just
actually-
not in that same
It would actually
location.
help with the stormwater management calculations on meat land.
To put New Roots Garden on Meatland property.
Yeah.
Yes.
You create pervious surface.
And you would be selling 2 parcels currently owned by the town that are zoned what?
C2,
C2, which is commercial residential, correct?
it's commercial.
Commercial,
Two.
didn't you say residential
I
upstairs?
thought it was CR. But you're saying, I thought it was CR.
C2,
It's all C2.
yeah.
Both corners are C2.
Rayfield is, it's all C2.
Okay, so commercial property that would be bringing dollars into the town's coffers, assuming that businesses are built there. A bike shop. Ken wants a bike shop. I feel like it's crickets. Am I missing something here? We're talking
New Roots
about,
is just sacred ground, that's all.
it can be sacred ground, but it can be moved to another sacred ground location. I'm not saying not have New Roots Garden. I'm saying it sounds pretty valuable to me right now. You're saying it's $1.25 million.
I'm only multiplying the 250 a pop that we're considering, the town's considering paying, times 5.
For Meatland, and that's below market value, correct?
Correct. Yeah, you
Yes.
could probably get more than 250 each for those lots.
For those lots? Okay, I think that's an interesting component that needs to be sort of folded into this discussion, that the town currently owns property worth over, let's say, $1.5 million.
No.
I am again,
I agree with
for the
you.
record,
I agree
not
with you.
saying do away with New Roots Garden, I'm saying
No, I
maybe relocate it.
I think you have to look at it as a pretty valuable asset. The logistics of what you do with it, or, I mean, you could even expand New Routes to include, like, you know, we're always talking about things to make people want to live here and make it a more enjoyable place. You could actually have even more space so that residents could have little garden plots within there for their own personal use, like they do in many communities. But, you know, does it need to be on such a valuable, prominent corner? All our dirt's
Well,
pretty
it's-
darn good.
It's
Not
it's
only-
become a valuable corner because of the work that New Roots Youth Garden has put into it over the past 13, 14 years.
$3.5 million?
It was the concrete, it was the pad for the water towers, is what it was. It was a piece of crap, excuse my language, and the town allowed New Roots to build up, knowingly that it's not always going to be there, there's that possibility. But I believe when we talk about, and we look at our strategic plan, and we talk about our character and the uniqueness of who we are as Cape Charles, that is one of the cornerstones. So, not saying it can't be moved, I obviously think it's a lousy idea, but not saying it can't happen.
But not really lousy.
Really lousy, really lousy. I think it is the worst idea I've ever heard, to be really frank. I've been trying to behave myself. But that's all right. I don't disagree that it's valuable land.
It's very valuable,
the point
and
I'm
we're
gonna-
asking our taxpayers to
Oh,
start.
come on. It's become valuable because of what has been invested in that
I
land.
think that land, well, but I don't know what it looked like beforehand, Tammy. you're
I can
correct.
give
But
you
I don't think
pictures.
the fact that things are growing on it right now is what makes it valuable. I think the things that it could become in the future is what is making it valuable. Somebody's not gonna come in and buy New Roots Garden so they can continue to grow things on it. But I'm not trying to say do away with New Roots Garden. Again, want to make that very clear. But it's hard for me to marry asking our taxpayers to come up with money to either buy land or pay for a building when we're sitting on a piece of property that's worth $1.5 million.
But you're transferring property of equal value. So the value of New Roots now, at Bob's at 2.5K plus, if you want to put it on meat land, well, that's 2.5K plus. You're still taking valuable property and using it for the same
That was
purpose.
gonna just be my point exactly.
So what value is it to move it from here to here? Leave it where it is and sell that over there.
That's
So
sell the lots that are on meat land, which could get you the same exact money as New Roots Garden. It's a trade. Just because you're moving meat land
It's
from
all,
one
it's all valuable
$250,000
dirt.
lot
It's
to
all
another.
valuable dirt.
It's all valuable
So if you're
Right.
gonna have a New Roots Garden, wherever it is, yes, it comes at a price tag.
I'd rather keep some open space.
All right, are we ready to go through the pros and cons now?
Wow, we haven't even gotten there yet, have we?
Hey, Clayton, who's taking your lines?
Hey, I've learned a lot from Clayton.
Have at it.
All right. We'll go through pros and then we'll add others if you see them. I just make sure we're all, including the community here's why we value this parcel. We already own it. That's the first one. That's a huge pro to me. We own this. There's not a cost involved. Second, less costly site development, 600,000 or less. There is still because of BMPs and so forth. Third, the walkable location with easy golf cart access. Again, it's prime area. We can get to it easily. I'll stop there. What other pros come to your mind? It's a big lot, and so I think we could easily put our town hall there, even if we have to pay extra to do some redesigns of this. It's still our property.
I think a pro is the change and the impact it would make on entering town from a welcoming point of view, an improvement of not looking like it's a used car lot that you come in to see, so.
Even on our lot, you think it gets that done on our property?
Yeah, I think it
versus-
ties it together. I think it really ties all of it together, because it's just it doesn't have the flow of what, on either piece of it.
Yeah.
This is after you've passed the meat land property and seen
Yeah.
the,
Right.
We'll sell eventually, whether we get it
Yeah.
or
yes, we'll sell eventually,
Yeah.
yes.
Not for a long time.
not.
What else? That's a good one. I wrote that down. What are the other pros, assets of this option?
But as far as pros, I think we talked about them. It's pretty clear. I think we go to the cons at this point. I don't know if there's any other pros that stand out.
I'll get my little strip of sidewalk added on Fig.
There you go.
There's a
That is
pro.
true.
It's already there though, Paul, on that
I
side.
don't know in Fig.
Oh, on the other
On
side.
the east side.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's doable, Paul. Mm-hmm. We can add that. All right, let's go to the well-loved cons. Everyone loves that one.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah, I mean, the main one is number one. And I mean, that goes right back to comparative as far as just being a
Yes, exactly.
tight fit. Where are we gonna get the extra parking, whether it's across the street or where it's gonna be, because that's still.
I think if you sit and play with it, you're gonna fit on that parcels. You're gonna sit and
it
you'll be able to
140?
find the adequate parking, because again, on Consot, we talked about 48 spots, okay? And I think we can get 48 on the extra parcels that the building doesn't sit on.
We can get 48 parking spots out of those 7 parcels plus a building?
Right.
Wait, this wasn't to scale.
No, it's to scale.
Yeah, it's just plotted in there, and it shows you where you're sitting.
That's
I put it-
48 right there.
Okay.
You just have a couple
If you
hanging
go to
over
Consot,
to the
you
east.
count the 48, but this is overlapping a little bit right now, because you just took the picture and laid it down.
Okay.
And if your stormwater is underground, you could put parking on top.
You can.
So I take issue with the very tight fit until something else is brought to demonstrate that, but right
So-
now.
That's a
So
good
just
point.
change the wording of that.
So it's a potential, it's not a definitive tight fit. We could make it work. That's what you're saying, Paul.
That's correct.
Could be.
Could,
Well, that's what I'm looking
And I don't
for.
like that it's
Bob.
a-
Bob would be most apt to say that.
and I don't like the whole congested look. If it's gonna fit, it's gonna fit. I mean, we're not, putting a round peg for a square hole here. If it fits, it fits. If it doesn't,
Right.
Right.
we'll have to redesign it.
That's a
Make
good
it-
point. And the congested is another question mark. Is it gonna feel congested? I mean, if you look at, the buildings don't really, it's only on part of it. The rest of it's open, so it's not gonna necessarily feel congested. Number 2, likely need to add street parking.
Well, we just discussed that.
I think that that's a question
questionable.
mark,
Yes,
too.
that's questionable.
Yeah.
All right, 3rd, underground stormwater retention required.
That's
It's gonna be,
fact.
so that could be a pro, but it is gonna cost us, and it's a little bit more extensive than just a parking lot. And that, you're saying that number is at least 250,000 to do that?
That's probably
Okay.
very conservative.
I guess it could be a pro, because if you look at the cost of purchasing land versus having to, it's a pro, it's cheaper. More affordable, sorry, not cheaper, more affordable.
Well, you already have, number one, no land cost, so you already have a pro for
That's
that.
right.
This is,
This is an additional price.
Yeah. And the last con here that's on the sheet, new site plan required. Again, we know that. We're gonna have to make some adjustments, because again, this wasn't designed for this property. So, any other cons that you can think of?
well, you already mentioned the historic on the previous one, so whatever we had added for the historic interface
Would be the same.
would have to be looked at.
Well, that should be a piece of cake.
Yeah,
We have
okay.
some of it.
I'll say this for Bob. It's just money.
Especially with Katie out there. We're gonna get through that. Okay, all right, any other feedback from this one? All right, let's rate it. Stole your words. Okay, the first one, does it meet the criteria of safety?
Yes.
The criteria of accessibility?
Yes.
The criteria of capability? Character?
Again, yes.
I think it's
Based
the
on
same
how
as the
we
Meatland
redesign.
one, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And lastly, parking.
I gave half because I thought we don't know if it'll meet our parking needs, right? Or do we think it will?
If we're talking underground
PMP, they can park on top of it then.
water storage, that whole area becomes parking, and it looks like it potentially is even more parking.
Okay, I gotcha. I got
And,
you.
and I
I got
think
you now.
it also satisfies what I said earlier of it actually could provide future parking for other
Sure.
things.
Overflow.
That's what overflow parking. So
Sure.
I know that's not necessarily, but it is something to consider. So, all right, so we got agreed that is a criteria that's being met for this a goal? All right, now, okay, so this is the last option. And again, the last option is recorded just to give a little bit of background. This is a temporary option. It's because we would want to renovate the town hall. And so we would have to look at this. Long-term, I don't think it's an option based on our conversation. Bob and John and I were there. And we have one of the parishioners here who's a pastor there. This is a short-term option. They're not interested in selling the piece of property to us. So, but if we were to renovate town hall, this could be immediate, something that we could use. Again, it doesn't fit all of our needs, but it does allow us to move our immediate administrative staff over there.
Well, we've already said town hall doesn't work.
I hear you.
Even renovated, it wouldn't work.
I hear you.
Yeah, depends how you configure
Just doing
it.
due diligence
So
for
I
us.
think if, what we talked about is that this would be a great plan B if you were to decide to do your new build at one of the three locations, whichever one you choose. And bids come in at $27 million or something ridiculous, and you can't move forward. And it's going to be years before we're going to be able to reboot, redesign, whatever. You can't stay in the existing town hall for years more. That's not a reasonable option. In that case, then this would be a great option to move to for a few years until you could come up with the permanent solution.
Yes. So we walked through the facility. We spent a lot of time. Their staff were incredible just to talk through it with us, to give us enough time to absorb it. Bob was able to run numbers, do schematics to see could this fit, what our needs really were. And so here's just some of the feedback. Facility-wise, insufficient room to accommodate all the functions of the current new town hall design. Most administrative functions could fit in the numbered rooms, about 4,200 square feet. No room for dedicated council chambers or police department garage. Now, they do have space that we could make it work. However, there's other needs that they have. There's other groups that are there. And so the main sanctuary area, we'd have to move things around because it's not as big as this right here. So we'd have to, and that would change.
We weren't talking about the sanctuary. We're talking about the fellowship hall.
Fellowship hall,
Yeah, that's the next point.
yeah.
Okay. Fellowship Hall, almost 3,000 square feet, could be used as a council chamber on a shared use basis. Again, there's other needs that they have currently serving. Kitchen could be used on a shared use basis. Food pantry now in the room, I don't know if that's an 08, would need to be relocated. We would need that space and they would have to figure out another. So it's not worked out perfectly, but it is something that we would have to work through. Sanctuary, not needed. And like I said, it feels like a church, and so there's pews. It would be kind of a challenge for us to meet our space for this, or even have it as a room. It's a large space, but it's going to be difficult for town hall use. Police would need to remain at the existing town hall following extensive renovations, or build a new standalone police department. Location cost to be determined. John, since we're still on that page, anything you want to add? Or Bob?
No, because this continues to the next page.
Okay. So further on the next page, let me turn that for the community. Trinity buildings would need some renovation and reconfiguration for town use. A good pro, it's already ADA compliant. They have to do that anyways for their parishioners and use. So that's a plus. Has fire, alert system and emergency access lighting, the electric appears adequate, HVAC functional but very dated. I think that's something that it really is, they've already told us that that's probably needing to be replaced soon, but it does work right now. Needs IT cabling and drops for our needs. Inadequate parking for staff and the public. I think that's a big thing that we noticed. Just how do we do that? How do we have an adequate parking So it's one of our priorities, and it's already a challenge. We noticed that as we speculate, or went through our assessments.
Although you do have parking on Plum, right?
True, you got,
Staff parks
Could walk.
right on Plum right now and does on also Mason, but you've got all the way down, there's no houses that face out onto Plum.
it would be no different than this.
And you're down
Our
into
current
the Central
facility.
Park area, it has no houses facing out, so I wouldn't say inadequate, I wouldn't say that it's great. But if it was a temporary
It works.
location, it would
Yeah.
work.
There were
That's
just-
my opinion.
Just needed to be those parameters set so that staff knew not to park on
Right.
the residential part of
On
Tazewell.
Tazewell, allow it for, yeah, public parking.
We have enough to share.
You've
Yeah.
got, look at the town hall here, you've got things going on, people find parking spots for the time being, and then leave.
So again, we were comparing this to the other options. So we're not saying there's no parking.
Yeah.
We're saying it's inadequate
Correct,
parking.
but I just wanna-
When compared to the other options.
Convey that's, yeah, this would be a headache, but it could be doable.
Yeah,
And it's a
Short
temporary
term.
situation.
If it was short term, right.
yeah. And it is similar to this facility here, because everyone had to drive and park somewhere, or even our current facility. We don't have much parking there either, so it would be similar. Ongoing responsibility for maintenance of building, the town would be responsible. And systems, as well as the lease rates, still needs to be negotiated. Costs are kind of unknown. We just did this preliminary. Go ahead.
So one of the pieces of using the fellowship hall, we would be using that for chambers, right?
Well, you could.
You could, or you just keep, unless we sold this to move toward. So if we're using that, we just need to keep in mind, we can't leave it set up, kind of in doing that, right? We can, even though it's shared use.
So I know, I was gonna address that during the public.
Okay, all right,
But yes, you can leave it set up.
Okay.
We did discuss that.
thank you,
Rick.
appreciate it.
Great. And then last, this is a lease only, no ownership option, no equity received for lease payments, which in a normal situation, we would not receive that.
Just real quick on that before we do move on. If we were to do that for like a 2-year basis, going back to our endowment, we could still do the same thing though with those lease payments, with that 2 million,
Say that
correct?
again?
With that 2 million that we were already looking to allocate, if we were gonna build and put it somewhere to get that money, if we were to do the same thing with this lease payment, could we do that for a 2-year period? If this was
Well,
the option we
I'll
looked
pay
at?
for the lease payments.
Correct.
Certainly.
Okay.
Now, what's not addressed here is our pros and cons for this arrangement.
Right,
Okay. And, you know, I think we need to talk through the refurbishment of our existing building, temporary use of the church here, and finding a place for the police,
Which,
the new standalone building. And I can put the building right on a piece of property that we own, right behind the treatment plant. I forget what the road is there.
On Monroe, or,
back by
No,
the,
we're back in the waste treatment plant.
Are you
Oh,
referring to
oh,
a
Bay
police
Shore?
department?
No, it's the public, he's referring to the public works.
I got-
behind
oh,
the wastewater treatment plant.
okay, I
Sheds
gotcha.
Road.
Yes, Bay Shore Road,
it's what, 1.2,
Yeah.
1.2 or 1.4 acres?
Treatment plant.
So while we're on this subject right now, if we're gonna go on, because I think a lot of us have opinions on this with the old building. Paul, if you wanna start it off with your pros and cons, and then we can just go right around the table as far as everybody talking what they feel about the old building.
Well, without the fiscal discussion, I'm gonna miss out on
Yeah.
one of my arguments here.
I mean, we'll hold it, that's fine.
That's where it is. I can refurbish it to put all my admin right now in it, and move the police, and maybe even couple it with Public Works and put them in a prefab building out on this other piece of property that's close to water and sewer.
And for, I don't know how many people here actually know it, I think Ed might know it. The police department's been not part of the town hall for a long time. They were in the old school at one point, they were where Elizabeth was, they were not part of the town hall whatsoever. And the bay was always a parking for, what's that Indian called, Miss something, Miss Mary, I think.
It was leased to the fire department.
It was leased to the fire department, so that's coming, that space has come available, so if it gets gutted, refurbished, and relaid out, with the numbers you have, 4,000 square feet, with just the personnel, I think it would work great. And it's not roughly, I don't know what's gonna be costing, but based on what we did before, it's about $4 million, 4.5.
Well, you get it to,
And
the
there's
last
the other
page,
thing.
when we get to our cost options, you know,
Yeah.
like I'm saying before there, we should be discussing, is it an option or some option with variation associated with it?
So wait, I want to make sure I understand. You're saying for this last piece, the option would be kind of a package deal of refurbishing current town hall, and while that's in process, we relocate to Trinity, and we move the police department to another location, and the one that you're suggesting is out on Bay Shore Road that we already own, as a
Right.
possibility.
Right, that's
And
my
that the
package.
ultimate goal would be to move the administrative function back into what is currently town hall after it's been refurbished. And do we believe that refurbishing would be as cost effective?
It would be, well, let me ask you a question, Paul. What about the council chambers? Where would
I'm happy with this, or I can go right next door and rent the Methodist church, or use Rosenwall School if it gets to one of those that we need more space.
Can I give a scenario too? In the 8.5 years I've been on council, we've used the firehouse twice for overflow and the YMCA 3 times in 8.5 years.
Yeah,
I don't
why
think,
is-
we don't need it, is what I'm trying to say. We have this facility, because this is more than we normally have tonight. We have a heated discussion that we know that's coming in the pipeline. We generally know when it happens. It usually happens every 5 or 6 years. Some hot topic comes up and we can just plan around putting it in a different location, knowing what was coming.
But just
Just-
in the past 18 months or so, we've had several
100.
contentious meetings here where we have had to lock the door and leave people outside.
Yeah.
And moving to another location means that you're not going to be on video. So you're not going to be, people aren't going to be able to watch it
I
later.
think we can figure that out. I think we can
So,
figure
so
the
here's,
biggest thing out.
the only thing I'm gonna say on
got
it, and we
fun.
talked about it a little bit today. Is the space already? Yes. Could it fit everybody? Yes, as it is right now. But if we do grow and build, there's no space for that. And how much space are we taking away when we do have to put in an elevator, correct? I mean, it would have to be
Yes.
compliant.
There's ways to
So you're gonna lose space there. And then, once we start digging into those walls and digging into that building, no one knows what we're gonna find.
It's gonna be right.
And if all of a sudden we have something budgeted and there's another $1 million or $2 million cost that goes into it, then literally we've spent enough money that we'd have a brand new building.
Exactly.
I
But you-
disagree with that.
But you also
because
have
you're
cost
talking
overruns. How many are cost
4 or 5
overruns?
million versus 10 million, right,
Until
for
we
these
find
other
something.
ones.
It's now another $2 million.
Well,
have to
I'm
say
also
yourself.
gonna add
You can
costs
you can
for
have
a
the same thing
prefab
happen- You
building.
can have the same thing happen at Meatland. You don't know what's underneath that ground.
Okay. So
There's all sorts of different scenarios. Cost escalations, how many times we build something dealing with something? Cost escalations are always gonna go up. They always do. I mean, I might say 7.8, but I can tell you right now, it'd probably be closer to 10.
Okay,
Because the
so
cost
once we
of
make
it.
it ADA compatible, put in the elevators and everything else, and we do all that study, and now all of a sudden there's not enough space and we can't do the remodel, how much time have we wasted?
Well, you could do an external elevator. You don't have to, you,
Well, that'll look good.
well,
I mean, if we're
An
putting $4 million
external
into a
shaft,
building, it would look pretty good, I would think.
I mean, there are ways to do it. I'm not talking about something, in Las Vegas where it's, a transparent shaft. It could be, it's done all the time. And you do eat up a little space internally for the elevator lobby, yes. But it's 5,800 square feet. Without the police, we need, 4,000, 4,200. So if you exclude the police, it does fit.
Bob, I have a question. Can the footprint of the building get larger? Like where people park now? Is that a possibility for that?
It is, it's in the historic district, so you'd have to comply with all those regulations, but yeah, you could.
It could
And I think
expand.
that's all fire department owned property, yes, no? Behind where people are parking right now?
On that side there? Yeah, could be, yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
have
so
to work
the-
out something.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Dollar lease.
So I think too, just a note, we have challenges right now. So we're talking about a big renovation, but the challenge is that the space is a challenge for us. There's a challenge of just our documents. We don't have room for that. So that doesn't solve that problem. The police is also that's gonna require another solution to this, because that doesn't work either. So I don't know what the cost is. You know, we can speculate on what the cost is, but even then, that's speculating until we really get into it, and we don't really even know then. I like the idea we're rehabbing, however, it doesn't solve our problems of why in fact, if I go back, when I was reading the history that you sent me, Paul, I feel like we were in the same discussion the last time, where we were looking at option one, which was renovate the building, and the town council immediately went to option 5.
Well, I think, okay, so to be clear though, the price estimates for those 5 options were very close to each other.
Yeah.
You know, they were like $1 million apart. So sure enough, I had proposed option 1, renovating, and was pushed back, but that's fine. But the price at the time was very close. It is not close now. So I'm saying that option should be back on the table and discussed or further ferreted out.
I do think, and I don't know where this fits in, but we should just keep in our minds that utilizing Trinity United Methodist could also work in other situations. If we want to move out of the current situation because of the safety and the issues we have there, and we want to get that building sold if we chose some other build, that is an option for us in doing that. I just don't want to, since it's attached to this, I don't want us to lose sight of that as an option.
And I think John made that point earlier as
Yeah.
well, that if, you know, all these things that we're talking about could be cost prohibitive, no matter what. And we're gonna need an option.
Sorry, how much did you say you have in reserve for the construction costs of the building?
The budgeted amount, so if it comes in at 7.8 million, we can cover it.
We have the cash reserves to cover the construction of the building.
Yes, we do.
All right, you wanna rate it?
All right, so keep in mind, I'm sorry, Ken, you like
No,
to
I'm just making sure. Are you saying rate Trinity?
No, I was gonna have to bring these together. I think they need to be thought of in, like Paul said. In this scenario, it's because we're gonna renovate the building, our current town hall building. We're gonna renovate that and then use that. So keep that in mind as we talk about it.
So Trinity would just be a Band-Aid regardless, so really we don't need to rate that. We would just need to rate remodeling the current.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Except from a cost perspective, although we decided we were gonna talk about that at the end, right? The cost? Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about renovating the building, just that standalone. Safety, is that going to accomplish the goal of safety? Is it going to address?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Accessibility,
We complained about it yet.
We have to agree.
that would be the reason why we're doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to say yes, because that's the whole purpose. Why would we do it then if it doesn't accomplish that? Capability, is this facility going to address the capability for us to work and be efficient and do what we need to in the building?
As you had said, it may not be able to fit the archive stuff there,
Correct. It doesn't fit.
It doesn't
right now.
currently.
so.
It's in the library right now, right, third floor?
That would make it, no, it does not make it efficient.
Well,
Right.
I'd have to add, part of this option is a separate police building
With the
Yeah.
archive.
that could include archives.
Okay, so let me make sure I'm communicating clearly.
'Cause they're securing
As as overseeing operations. I don't think so, to be honest. I think it's gonna be a big nuisance for our staff to have to drive all the way to another place to get our documents that we depend on
And
daily.
where do they go right now?
Library,
No.
not anymore.
Base storage.
That's
Base
great.
storage.
They go to
Oh, they already
base
kicked you out? I didn't know you got
It's
kicked
just-
out.
It's just, I'm just, that would
It
try to.
goes to base storage, and
I know,
that
I'm
would
trying to
be
communicate, it
a
is
lot
not
closer.
convenient for us right now.
Right, so
It's,
it would be equally as inconvenient as it
correct.
currently is.
Correct.
That's correct.
But why
But
don't,
not-
why
not
why do
here
we
to
think
any
that
other.
archives doesn't fit?
Does not meet our-
Wait, say that again?
Why don't we think archives doesn't fit?
All the building plans are being scanned, so that's going away, so all those paper
Well,
plans.
go ahead. Explain what you're saying
Archives
with
is in the
archives.
4,000, 4,200 square foot.
There you go.
In the
program.
original analysis from 22, we said it wouldn't. So when you go back to the 22 report
Yeah.
we gave the council, it said it was, we couldn't put the police archives or council chambers there, that we'd only be able to put administration
I-
here. That's why it says that, because that's what we told council in 22.
Yeah,
But
it'll fit.
So it'll fit.
all right, we're gonna,
Go.
we'll make it work in the refurbished building. Character, fit and feel.
Put it in your shed, Paul.
There you go. I was looking for a purpose.
So I would,
Feel it's already there.
it's already town hall, so it is,
Yeah.
it's just the fit and feel.
up at it.
Parking,
No.
oh,
Parking's
come
a-
on.
Parking's a hard no.
Yeah.
All
You
right,
got
so-
parking right now that people
Yeah.
are
It's-
accommodating in,
That's-
they're on Plum, and there's parking on Plum.
So we have a vote for parking.
And Mason.
Unless it rains.
I'm
and
so-
you
I'm
gotta
sorry, that
jump
parking is
over.
completely-
It's awful.
It is an absolute no.
No.
It is an absolute no.
Yes, and you
No for
can't-
me.
you can't get into the building.
Yeah.
All right, if there is not a parking lot, it is a no.
I agree.
I
think-
have to always park
Hey,
illegally.
remember, we're being objective about the options. I think we're already inadequate. It doesn't solve the problem.
No.
The parking doesn't get solved in this one. Okay, so I think this is a rehashing of all of them,
Oh, great.
final analysis. I can go through our review of how we rated them.
Marion, your office seems much larger than necessary. Don't you think we could fit a couple more people in there? You work from home?
10 more people, yeah.
Perfect.
Rick, I think at this time, I'm gonna just, take a period. I think it's time that we bring the public in. I think we've discussed and you guys have heard us long enough.
One of the questions I've been asked to pose to the council, there's uncertainty what is meant by the endowment and what sort of anticipated interest rates are being presumed in this analysis.
So the endowment was $2 million that we talked about to put in to offset the payments on the, and this was brought up for the Meatland loan. And I believe the rates we were talking were 4.5.
4%. So we've
4%.
historically, we have to invest in the Virginia investment pool. That's what we're required to do. And so we have limited amount of return there. But we've been watching the rates pretty closely. We've been earning between 5 and 6, sometimes over 6%, past couple of years. So we anticipate those rates are going to go down. So we're only budgeting for 4%. 4%.
And which is equating to about 30% of what we factor that payment to be on a monthly basis or quarterly basis, I'm sorry.
And we do, and if you were to move forward with this, we have planned to put a contingency in the debt service fund so that if market conditions were to fluctuate, we'd be able to absorb a slight downturn and still be able to make the payments.
And if we got
And
better,
then if they fluctuate back up, you can replenish it. So there's a shock absorber in there to allow for market conditions.
correct. So just real quick, before we have everybody coming up, I think, as you can hear, Clayton made it very clear as well, that there are probably 5 options on the table, and there's probably 5 opinions up here right now. So there is nothing decided. So any rumors that are out there, or anybody that's heard anything that this is papered already, and this is a done deal, that is not the fact. So when you come up this evening and you want to speak, there will not be a time limit. It will be back and forth, so you will be able to ask us direct questions. I do just want, if we can, just have one person making comments at a time. If we do need to address someone else that, in the audience that may want to answer a question or has more knowledge on that question, we can address them. But yeah, if we could just keep it moving, and if the same question's already asked, if you know, you could refrain from asking the same question over and over, that would be wonderful. So we can get out of here
But
before.
I'd like to hear also the opinion, if somebody has an opinion and others have that same opinion, just,
That's fine. If you have the same opinion, no problem at all. So who would like to be the first to come up to speak?
Do you want us to roll the podium now, or you want me to see on the microphone?
Okay, Mark, we'll start with you, then we'll go with you afterward.
State your name and your address.
Mark Ussery. Is it on?
Yep, you're good.
117 Strawberry Street. Thank you. Lots of options, and certainly a lot of discussion about those options, and I would suggest that the Meatland property would be my preference. I would also suggest that the Roots Garden be left alone, New Roots Garden be left alone, but it seems to me that we have assets sold to pay for the land. We could sell the 7 lots. We could sell the property on Cassat Road. We could sell the old town hall the old town hall building. We could sell the Civic Center. So we've got enough assets that we could sell, so we wouldn't have any debt service related to it unless we have the contract which requires it. So none of us have a crystal ball, and it seems like to me that the Meatland property gives us the ability to kind of dress up the entrance to town as the best option. Thank you.
Thank you.
can I ask a question? Is
Sure.
that the reason for your preference to clean up the front of the town?
No, it's a great benefit.
Then what's your preference based on?
My preference is based on my preference.
Okay, no basis, all right.
Yep, right in the back. Then we'll get Elise.
Hi, Jim Granger, 524 Jefferson Avenue. I'm private citizen. I'm also the lay leader and trustee at Trinity, so I can answer Trinity questions. I'm also on the board and the facilities chair at New Roots Youth Garden. So if you got issues there, I can talk to them as well. So, first off, we're in a difficult economic period. You know, we put a lot of eggs in the tourist basket, and that basket is starting to run low. I know there's hard data to back me up in Cape Charles somewhere, but Northampton County is already planning a tax increase to make up for the shortfall in transit occupancy tax revenues, and I'm sure part of that is coming out of us as well. Anecdotally, rentals are down. Many STRs have been forced into 3- and 4-day bookings. That's causing problems for the B&Bs. There are houses for sale because they can't make the numbers work for, they bought peak market and can't make the numbers work. So our tourism problem is hurting, and that's hurting our revenues. And our taxes right now are already high. We've been told already the county is going to be raising them, and we've been told to expect a tax increase next year. So what I'm saying is, let's look for the cheapest alternative that will work. I understand, you know, we all want ideal. You know, I've got champagne tastes and a beer budget. I do agree that we have to do something. I really disagree with buying the former Meatland property. It's too expensive. It takes a valuable commercial property off the tax rolls, and the clean up the entrance into town, I can see the point. At the same time, I haven't seen anybody, you know, I look at a summer weekend around here, and I don't think anybody's not coming into Cape Charles because the, you know, the entrance to town is not as ideal as it could be. So I'd say look for Trinity options and that for cheaper options, and that's why I favor the Trinity option and work in some of the other flexible things, renovating the town hall, look at another location for the police department, et cetera. Maybe some of the, you know, the police department space could be used for other admin personnel, expanding into that, whatever. A couple of other things. Trinity right now, it's essentially available now. It buys you time. If you've got to find, you know, hey, I got to go out and get bids, whatever, how long it's going to take to build a new building or whatever, Trinity is available now. Also, just 2 other points. The social hall for Trinity per fire marshal will hold 350 people. So if you're looking for a larger council chamber, that's a larger council chamber. And if you had to, you could also work on, the archives could also be at Trinity, which is closer than base storage. And that's all I got.
I mean, before we move on, you can hold on the microphone. Do you have any questions? Paul?
No.
All right, so mine are as far as a build out for Trinity, what kind of time frame are we looking at to accommodate the staff as far as what that would take to make it happen?
That's kind of subject to negotiation, and we talking to Bob Panic about it. I mean, basically, the building is, that section of the building is vacant now, and you could get working on it, you know, per negotiation, and how fast as you wanted to go.
We did a initial laydown of the departments within the existing spaces, and they actually fit remarkably well.
And then the only other thing I was gonna say is going back to Meatland, literally, that comment that I brought up tonight was the first time that that's been discussed by any of us, as far as the other lots being available. So if there were something done to where it was offset to where we're using the 7 and using part of Meatland to accommodate everything, and then those other lots offset that purchase 100%, would that be something that you'd want to look at?
I still think taking a commercial property off the rolls is a bad thing. One other question, and now I have a question too. And, you know, I'm a simple man. Can you just give me the total cost of ownership when all is said and done? How much is it going to cost to buy Meatland? I got equity and payments and interest and offsets and debt reserves and this, that, or the other, and...
Well, the number that we came up with, as far as interest and payments that are on there, is it gonna be, if we did the 10-year plan, you're looking at about 1.4 to 1.6 million.
Okay.
Over a 10-year period.
Okay, because didn't we see a 3.5 on there?
That's the purchase price. So if in 10 years, we decide to sell off 10 of those lots, whatever the purchase price is at that point, that would be. So yes, if it doesn't cover the nut, then yes, there's gonna be more money that's gonna have to be allocated to pay for it. But let's say that we get 4 million for those lots. Well, now we can put $500,000 in the bank, pay off the 3.5 million, or actually it's not, because we're putting down 700,000.
And I understand projections and what could possibly be happening, but right now, we're just looking at what? How much of an asset, if we bought it, forget any sales of anything else, just how much is that chunk?
3.5 million.
3.5, okay.
But that's anything. You can't look at it that way if you have other options on the table. Because I mean, it's just like I don't know. It's long term. It's anything long term. It's just like with this. If we do end up selling this building, that's going to then be an asset that's sold that's going to go against it. If we sell the 7 lots and just do Meatland, that's 7 assets that are being sold off. You know, so there's other things that can offset the $2 million that we're putting in for the endowment, and that interest that we're gaining on a monthly basis is also offsetting it. So to just go out and say, yes, what is it going to cost? 3.5 million. But we're not coming out of pocket for 3.5 million tomorrow if we were to buy Meatland. That's the only point I'm trying to make. But yes, to your point, 3.5 million is the cost.
Okay, I'm a simple guy. I know you're a mortgage whiz. Congratulations, by the way. You know, but I also know that sometimes you buy a house or you buy an asset and you say, hey, I'm going to make a butt ton of money when this thing goes. And I sit before you. When I sold my house in Chesapeake, literally I'm sitting before you in a Speedo because I lost everything else. Now, if I waited another year and a half, I might have broken even.
Jim.
There's your visual. There's your visual.
Jim.
I've been in it for 34 years, so I've seen it from the good times and the bad times. I've lived through 08, 09, so.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that, you know, we could project that we're going to make all that money off it. We may not. We may, you know, there may not be a whole lot of market to sell town, you know, for somebody to buy town hall. There may not be a whole lot of market for people to buy, you know, the civic center, that sort of thing. It could be, could not be. I worry about banking on it.
If I had a crystal ball, I wouldn't be sitting here right now.
There you go. I'd be buying lottery tickets.
And Speedos.
And Speedos.
Does anybody have any other questions? All right, Elise? Elise is next.
Hi,
Hello.
Elise McMath, 304 Tazewell. I'm a very malleable person, so I like to listen to everyone talk, and I find this to be super helpful. I like listening to everyone else's opinions too, because I care about what other people think about it. But my personal opinion at this point in time is, if I had to rank it, I would rank remodel number 1, 2, the vacant lots next to Meatland, 3, the lot we already own next to the Rosenwald School, and last would be Meatland, just because it feels like the main drive for wanting to buy Meatland is that it's an eyesore, and there's also seems to be like a lot of risk involved in it, and my main concern right now is after going to the budget hearings and listening to John warn of possible tax increases, that I would just want to go with the most conservative and safe option, which sounds like the remodel, but I also was interested by the idea of the 7 empty lots on the corner. It sort of reminds me of the pictures of the old newspaper building on that vacant lot on Randolph and Strawberry. Like, I feel like there's so much potential for just a empty lot on a corner like that, and I don't know what the redesign fees would be, but like listening to you guys talk about like maybe a 3-story, like how all the architectural style in that area is like brick. I feel like there could be something really cool there, and you already own the land, and there would be a lot of parking, and also thinking about how much people complain about parking in the summertime, like maybe you could incentivize people who come in large groups to leave a car. I don't really know, but it's just interesting that you could make so much parking there. And then I thought another pro for the option 1 was that it is next to the Rosenwald School. So if that ends up becoming like a hub for the community, that, and to Tara's point, it is like geographically in between Bay Creek and town, even though me personally, I like being able to walk here, but I know that, you know, if that ends up becoming more of a central area of the community, that could be interesting too, and we can't really know how that area is actually going to develop. So, but we do know the Rosenwald School is developing now, so I really just don't like Meatland. I kind of like really holding out hope that we'll grow enough to where a grocery store would actually want to go there, and then we'd be like a true walkable town where you could walk everywhere and walk to get it. I know that's like, you probably have to have a lot of people to get somebody to come back in, but that would be, you know, it already is a grocery store, and maybe if someone wanted to put one there, that, anyways, that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions or comments before we give up the mic?
I have one.
No, hold on.
I just to clarify a little bit, because most people probably don't have any idea, Main Street worked for a long time with the owners of Meatland to try to transform into many different types of things. So this is the furthest we've ever gotten to kind of moving in on something. I'm not saying I support that or not, but I just wanted to clarify that piece of it, that there has been an attempt to really see how we could utilize that land and get more out of it. And we worked on that for probably 2.5 years.
And there was no traction.
None.
No traction.
Oh, even before that?
I mean, they did studies, they did feasibility studies, they brought in a consult. I mean, there was a lot of effort, and it wasn't anything that was secret. It was just, we were trying to help them, like we do with any business, to answer their questions, to get them with the right people, and talk about possibilities and help them dream kind of what it could be. It just couldn't get off the ground.
That's not the first time. Remember Lee Goldman?
So, I mean, if I could tap again, just going from my experience over the last year, and I don't want to sound derogatory in any way, with all but the phrase herding cat comes to mind.
Yes.
So this is not one owner or 2 owners or 3 owners. It's a group of owners, as Tammy has mentioned, and they're older individuals. They're spread out across the country, trying to get all of them to agree on all the terms and conditions of the sale has become monumental. Main Street did it for years. It took me a full year to get them all to agree to the agreement that we're currently contemplating. My personal opinion, in having lived through that experience, is that if this doesn't happen now, you're not gonna see anything happen with that property for a number of years. I suspect until these particular owners pass on their inheritance to other heirs, you're probably not gonna see anything happen there for quite a while.
Well, the building's in pretty rough shape. And seriously, it should be condemned and torn down, 'cause that's a hazard. And two, we should start enforcing the rules we have about no overnight parking, correct? You said that a couple months ago. There's overnight parking, so there's things we can do to clean it up and enforce our own rules. That's one thing, then we don't have to worry about that.
At what point would that building become designated a historical
It's not
site?
historic.
I know it's not. I'm wondering, what are the parameters?
Was it 1964?
It was 64, it was built in 64. What's our year of designation, Paul, that we used for that?
It's-
64 is that year,
Okay, well, 64.
because that's my birth year.
Yeah, I think it moved to 60.
It's 64.
Did we accept 64 though, remember?
Yeah, we did.
Yes.
We did. It's in our ordinance.
So
No, there was
the
discussion
Meatland
about that.
building is not on the historic register today. That's what
Yeah.
I can tell you right now.
Right.
That's great, but
Somewhere in the mid-60s. I can't remember exactly when it was constructed.
But time is not on our side. At some point in time, it will fall into that category, correct, or
Right.
not?
It may, but I doubt
what I
it will
remember.
qualify for a real
Kind of
architectural
like the Chesapeake Bay Bridge.
structure with significance.
Yeah,
Okay.
you've got to have the historical society come through
Yes.
and re-baseline the entire town.
So it wouldn't be something where suddenly it would have some sort of designation that would mean it can't be torn down.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Right. I guess I'm trying to make sure that if we
They don't do
hunt
anything.
and no one sells it for a while, that we aren't suddenly at some point in the future sort of stuck with that building.
Well, the facade just fell off, they just put it back up a couple years ago. It's falling apart right
Okay,
now.
so the answer is no, that's not the case. Thank you, Katie.
Sam? And just real quick before you go, are you going to actually read your wife's email as well, or do you want us?
No, she has her own opinions.
Okay.
We agree most of the time, but she has her. I'm not reading her email. I believe Libby's going to do that. Although in this case, actually, I want to talk cash, and I appreciate all of the discussion. First off, thank you for preparing Rick and John all of this and having this. I mean, it's a big deal, obviously, and even though the turnout's not huge, it's really important because it's a lot of money. And it has all the implications of all the other projects you're looking at that are a lot of money. So with that being said, I appreciate the different conversation about the assets we have and what might be sold in the future and all of that, but I would underline the word future. And then I'll talk about what I think I heard about cash. And my numbers won't be totally precise, but to construct, and I'll use the new building because that was the most expensive option, right? To construct the new building, and I'll use the Meatland site, I think it's 7.36 million. It was 7.8, and then they were going to save 600,000 or something like that, and then there was 60 that had to be added on. To purchase the land, 700,000 down, so we're at 8 million. And then you have to set aside 2 million to cover 30% of the debt service or the purchase price, however you want to call it, to the owners of the meat land. So you're at just over 10 million out-of-pocket cash to accomplish the project on that particular site.
Well, the endowment is still there, the 2 million.
No, I understand, but if you take the money, if you're going to, the whole function of an endowment is you take the money, you set aside, it cannot be used for anything. So it has to come out of your existing cash reserves.
Correct.
So I understand it somewhere down the road, future, remember that word, somewhere down the road you'll get that back, and maybe you'll get back more because you earned more than you had to pay for the interest. But in terms of just thinking about, all right, we're going to buy that land, we're going to construct the building with cash, we're going to set aside the endowment, you're saying that of whatever your cash reserves are today, and I know we made money on selling of the water and all that, and I've kind of lost track of what that number is. But 10 million out of your cash reserves and allowing for, let's say, 30 months for construction to do that, that's a lot of cash moving out of the system in a really quick period of time that I think you need to be really cautious about whether that's the most appropriate thing you do. Other speakers have spoken about, is the market getting soft? Are some of your other revenue sources going to get soft along that way? What you don't want to do is find out, oh, we do need to now raise taxes because some of the other revenue sources haven't come in to do that. So again, make sure you really understand your cash flow over the next 2 to 3 years before the options of selling this building or whatever you might do with other things come along, because it feels tight to me, and it feels risky to me. Paul, I think you asked people, well, do I prefer a site? I probably prefer try to renovate and then take something that doesn't have to be for the citizens to be right in town, like the police department, and locate that off at a much lower cost type construction than you would if you built the building as the entrance to town and that type of thing. And I think that would recognize for the folks that for the accessibility, both obviously for the staff, but also for the walkability for folks, you could preserve that. And most of us are not walking to the police department or having to go to the police department. So you look at, is that a function that can be off somewhere? And so that's probably, yeah. So.
Sam, one other thing we talked about, not only about using straight out cash, is looking at doing a bond.
Right.
Over a longer period of time, which would keep our cash intact. We have looked into that, but.
Yeah, I was just going about from what I heard today, type of thing, and certainly, one of the things you were able to accomplish, if I remember right, John, is, you paid off all your debt. So from that perspective, it's a really good position to be in. And what you can hope is interest rates come back down. They were never, well, my prediction now, they're not going to come back to what we got used to for 20 or 30 years. But they'll kind of sit where they are and maybe come down a little. But yeah, and bonds are, and municipal, y'all's bonds will be better than what we as an individual could go out and borrow. So.
Thank you.
So, to answer your question on cash, a little more detail.
Okay.
So we have different funds for cash. The general fund is the one that is the least designated right now.
Hey, John, I'm sorry. Could you just move your microphone around to you if you're going to speak to that? Thank you.
You don't have to look at me. You can.
So for in the general fund for the coming fiscal year, we have an unappropriated fund balance of about 3.5 million. This is not needed for anything that we're talking about. So there's certain sunk costs, right? So whether we build on Meatland or renovate, there's costs, right? There's going to be a cash expenditure because we can't live in town hall as it is now. Right?
Sure.
So we're talking millions of dollars worth of expenditures here, one way or another. So there is going to be a cash outlay. Taking that into account, and by putting as the placeholder for that, the $7.8 million that we say we're going to need. So take that off the table. In addition to that is the money I'm telling you now, okay? So in addition to that, there's $3.5 million in the general fund. There's another $700,000 that is the remnants of the utility fund, which will go to the general fund. And then after we do all of the renovations or construction and everything else for all the facilities we've talked about, there's probably still another $700,000, $800,000 in the CIP fund. So that's the cash. That's all the cash that we still have, even after doing everything that we've been contemplating tonight.
Okay.
Just for your information.
Another 5 million.
Yeah.
Approximately.
Right. So anyway, I would just underscore, look at those numbers and be sure you're really comfortable, because that's your cash for the unanticipated things, and you still build in your budget for next year, and then at the next hearing for that, you'll have people come back that might have some requests for that as well.
And the other thing I'll add too is on the cash discussion is you're absolutely correct in your characterization of an endowment that needs to be set aside. You're not supposed to spend anything on it, but you could. I mean, there's no law saying you can't.
I want you to underline those words, but you could, and I call that risk, no offense.
Absolutely, but what I'm saying is that if something catastrophic or unplanned happened to the town,
Right.
then
Any endowment created by a board can be uncreated by a board,
so
right?
it is still cash in their bank account.
Right.
Understood.
Understood.
It's not something we're planning to use.
Right next to you.
Thank you.
Ed Wells, Strawberry Street, and thank you all for bringing this to the town's attention. I mean, it's a small crowd. My question is to Bob. What's roughly the square footage of the police component?
A total of approximately 3,000 square feet, 1,500 square feet for office and associated spaces, and 1,500 square feet for the garage.
So I'm looking at the rehab, the rehabilitation of the existing building, and you have to relocate the police department at 3,000 square feet, you say?
That's not what they have now, that's what they're planning on doing in the future.
That's what,
On the plan, 3,000 square feet?
correct, on that plan.
So if you build a 3,000 square foot building, it's, the rough number's about $1,000 a square foot, correct? I mean, that's what I'm seeing on some of these cost projections.
Well, we've been experiencing very high estimates and very high bids. I think some of the suggestions you've heard is, maybe you use a prefab building, maybe you use a building like the Y used, which is a steel building.
For a permanent police department, prefab?
Those steel buildings will last longer than you and I will be here.
I'm just asking a question. I'm just thinking of the rehab and the relocation of the police department. It's going to be, I don't know, it looks like 6 or 7 million, maybe more.
No, it can't be.
Well, you have a 4,000 square foot rehab.
Well, but remember, the whole, you mean with the
With the
municipal
rehab.
building? It could
And you're
be.
saying option number 4 would necessarily need an addition of a police department at $3 million. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, approximately,
Yeah, so that would take really that dollar figure from 4.7 million to 7.7 million.
Correct. I don't see.
So now it becomes a little bit more apples and apples between
Yes.
all.
No, that's a misinterpretation.
It's a completely different structure of a building, because you're talking open space garage. There's no,
You still have a site plan, you still have,
Yeah,
you know,
you still have all that.
well, even if you did it half, you're still up to 6 million, and you got,
Build 2 bathrooms for less.
and you don't have the parking for the town hall as it exists now. You don't know what you're gonna find in the town hall with the rehabilitation.
That is correct.
Exactly.
I mean, it just
Risky,
doesn't seem the right way to go for me. If you're gonna do it new.
Thank you.
Ed, do you have a preference as to where?
Yeah, where?
I'm kinda on the fence with that. I know we have the land, I mean, that's the cost savings there. I don't know. I don't know the numbers, and Meatland is a eyesore, but it's tight, it's a tight fit with the 7 lots.
I think Elise says something again.
Just so you all know,
I don't see the cassette as an option in my mind. Cassette property.
I'll just let everyone know, since y'all, I got Frank Wendell came by my shop, and he's for the meat land, just so you all know. And that's saying a lot, Right?
So can I just make sure, I'm doing a tally over here just to make sure I'm trying to accurately represent what I'm hearing. You're more in favor of number 2, which would be Meatland, or the town-owned parcels on Randolph?
Correct.
Okay. If you got a preference,
I haven't,
okay, that's fair.
I'm on the fence with it.
I'll give you dotted lines.
Elise, did you have something else?
Not committing you.
Yeah, to that point that Ed made, I really was looking at it first from a cost standpoint. And so if the remodel ends up being more in line with option 1 and option 3, my first choice then would be option 3.
Thank you.
That's the Randolph lots?
Yeah. Anybody else? If not, oh, go right ahead.
And just to state for the record, I am vehemently opposed to getting rid of new routes. I'm with Tammy.
Noted. Maybe I think we have some emails. Okay. Thank you, Mary.
This first one is from Dora Sullivan, at 117 Mason Avenue. She says, "What makes living in a small town so special and unique is that we are a walking town. We can walk to everything that we need, the doctor, pharmacy, post office, library, and hopefully we can include walking to the old meat land to pay bills and take care of town business." This one's from Julie Jones. Says, "Thank you for sharing the information about the 4 options for the town offices. My name is Julie Jones and my husband and I live at 538 Monroe Avenue. I believe that there might be a 5th option which might be cheaper. What if the current town offices were moved into Trinity UMC and the current civic building while the current town office building is renovated? The current civic building would not be needed for council meetings since Trinity has a large fellowship hall which could be used for meetings. Plus, the fellowship hall would provide seating for more than the current 99 people allowed in the fire code in the civic building. The current town offices could then be renovated without having to build a new building to house those functions. If more space is still needed, then a new, smaller building could be built on the town-owned property out by the Washington Rosenwald School to house offices that citizens do not routinely need to visit. And perhaps a new police station and/or fire station could be located there as well, freeing up those spaces currently occupied in town. This plan would not require the town to purchase any additional property and would preserve the meatland site for a commercial business, perhaps a grocery store, to come in, so a valuable commercial property which generates tax revenue would not be taken off the tax rolls. Basing nearly all of the town's economy on tourism, we are seeing what happens when tourism slacks off. There is a talk of raising taxes next year, something no one wants, in order to cover all the needs of the town. Surely this is not the time to undertake a $10 million project when an option to recycle, repurpose what the town already owns might be a viable option worth looking into. Thanks for your service to the town of Cape Charles. This is a tough job."
That's it? Oh, what you said 3. All right.
Jim Granger is here, so he's.
Oh, got it. You did tell me that earlier.
And Julie's trumps Sam's?
Yes, dear.
All right, so with all that on the table and everything we've heard out there, it really is down to what the next steps are, because as I think we all agree in this room, up here in the IC and everything else, is that the building we have right now is not gonna work much longer at all. So something does have to be done. So where do we go from here? What would be the next steps? And what discussion do we all have on that?
I mean, I'd like some more information on appraisals of some of the property we already own. I think that as you factor those appraisals into whatever decisions, including the Casat Parkway.
Like, do you think we should, are you saying we should put those all up for, to pay for appraisals for them, or just go off assessed value and make some approximate valuations, or?
When's the last time that all of our land owned by the town has been
appraised.
Actually appraised.
I don't know if it ever has, it's never been appraised.
Never has.
There's been no need to.
There's no tax paid on it.
Well, there's need to if you're thinking about selling it.
Correct, and we do that.
Yeah, when we're gonna sell it.
Well, I was only saying if we did it all as one, with all the land that we own, we're gonna get a cheaper price than doing individually with each lot. An appraiser will come in and give us one estimate to do every piece of property.
That's probably true, and we just let a contract for appraisal of the Canoni property, and it wasn't cheap, wasn't terribly
Nor is it
expensive.
fast.
Nor is it
You're-
fast.
You're taking a month, probably.
Yeah.
But we're talking 55 or 54 acres, whatever it is, compared to 12 acres total of what we own right now.
Yeah.
And what's not cheap? Like, what does that mean? What, how much?
8,000.
No, it was like 17, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
For that,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah,
more.
but I'm just going to make a comment here. I get the desire to understand what the properties are worth, because we're going to sell some or all of them at some point. But we're going to sell some of them at some point in any case. The real issue here is, do you want to spend $3.5 million? And you don't need the appraisal of these other properties to wrestle with that. That's an offset. That's an offset.
If I'm spending $3.5 million, if I've got $3.5 million worth of property, I can sell and pay for that. I mean, that's me personally.
I understand that,
That's
but
why I
that,
need that intel.
but that is simply an offset. It's still an opportunity cost. You have lost $3.5 million. Whether you offset it from some other place, you could use that money to do other things the town needs. That's what you're facing.
No, 10 years anyway.
I do think it would be helpful, I said this earlier, when Bob did this originally for us, we did have kind of estimates of what this might sell for. We've talked about it tonight, but to have it in writing again would be very helpful, what we thought this might sell for, what the town hall and those others. And I also feel like that document that we used, it feels years ago now, but the square footage of what we need for the town. I know we have a total, but, you know, we had it broken down, what the police needs, what the archives need. I found that tool very helpful. I didn't keep it where I should have, and I don't have access to that anymore. So that would be helpful to come about when we talk about next steps. But I feel like that's going to be something we need.
And the only thing that I'd want to bring up with renovating our current space that we have, I know you said that it could possibly get bigger or anything else, but if we do grow, does it give us any room to grow where it is right now?
If we do
remodel it.
Oh, right.
In the building we're in currently, if,
This house is 5,800 square feet, you need about 42 rooms. Without the police,
correct.
without the police.
Okay, so that would be taken over and be admin down there where they are currently.
I'm
Yeah, and that whole
uncomfortable
garage would get-
Sending the police off. I think there's a real value with having the police be a part of our administrative community. And
That's
doing-
relatively new because they were never there for
I
years.
understand that, just because it wasn't.
Years. Go ahead.
I think it's valuable to have it, and it's important for them to feel not only a part of the administration, but be community policing as well, and being present, and sticking them off in the hinterlands, to me, just doesn't seem, by themselves, just doesn't seem.
Well, if they're doing a job, they're not there during the day. They're not, it's not like it's just an office desk where they're sitting, they're usually out patrolling. most
They
of the
come
time.
together on Tuesdays.
Yeah, one day.
There's a lot of residents that come to town hall to see the police.
Yes.
All the time, especially during the summer, residents, especially visitors, and they wouldn't be able to do that if they were over by the wastewater treatment plant.
I have great concerns over renovating the current town hall. Any of us here who have a historic property and know, just even on a small scale project, what that surmounts to be is just a nightmare. I have real concerns of the unknown. Like some of these other things, I feel like we can really get some financial accuracy of what we're moving forward. That is such a complete unknown of what we will really be able to do. maybe I just don't have enough information on that. But that makes me very, very uncomfortable as a real option.
I'd also like to get some sort of estimate what it would cost us if we were to move, I'm not necessarily advocating it, move the police somewhere else. What is it gonna cost to build something appropriate for them, site develop, that kind of stuff, just so we know what to add in.
I agree with that too.
Well, you have to get a little more specific about what other functions you want. If it's just the police, that's going to be one thing. If you want the police and council chambers, that's going to be another thing. So I mean, when we did our estimates before, it was police, council chambers, and archives. So if you just wanted police and you want a simple steel building and it's just them, it's going to be much cheaper cost. If you want to try to expand your capacity here, I mean, then, and you want to encompass, say, council chambers, well, that's a different level of construction and different cost per square foot. So you're going to have to be more specific about what you want. And what.
Yeah, because I think, well, again, just my opinion, but if we're doing all this, to not have everything together, just kind of just seems dysfunctional as far as what we're looking to do. I mean, we're putting out an exorbitant amount of money regardless, whether it's a remodel, whether it's a new build. I mean, I think really the only thing on the table, and I guess that was Tobias' point that he was trying to make, is Meatland something that should be discussed, or are we taking that off the table? And then, looking at the other options. I mean, are all 4 options still viable with everybody up here? I mean, I guess that's the first step that I think we should take, is are all 4 options something that everybody wants up here, or should we start removing them and nailing it down to what the community wants and what the consensus is?
Yeah, I think just let me add to that. I think it's really important. We've heard from the community. This is a small representation of the community, but it is a representation.
Oh, hold on. Let's get the microphone. No, that's what we're here for.
My name's Ann Pershing, 308 Captain Norris Brown, and I think I am the only person here from the Bay Creek community. And this is so fascinating to me. I'd love to hear all of the different thoughts. But what I'm afraid of as a homeowner here in this area is if you're going to ultimately make the decision for the whole community, then how are we getting information from the whole community? And I feel like we've heard a lot from people here in town, but we're only hearing it from maybe 20 people. And is your job now to go out and talk to your constituents and find out what is the best thing for everybody in this area? I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I love this town, that's why I live here, and I love the walkability and everything in town, but I think we need to make decisions that, I came from an area that people didn't take risks. They let the developers create the town, and it diminished it. And they,
I know those developers.
yeah, and sometimes you just have to say, this is what we're going to do, build it, and they'll come and build it in a way that represents all of this town and the greatness and the gem of what it is.
Well, thank you. And that was kind of to my point is, we are seeking to be transparent in this whole process to the best of our ability right now. And I value, as we all do, we value the public's feedback. And I just want to remind the staff has also, we had a meeting this morning to discuss it. And, this is, they're frustrated. I mean, for us to work in the conditions that we're in right now, they're frustrated. They feel like this is never going to happen. They've heard this, the can's been kicked, and, it hurts me to hear that. The morale of a facility that is never going to meet the standard that we need right now. And I understand it's complex, but you have needs too. the council has needs, we have needs, the community has needs and desires of what they see. Please consider that as you guys are thinking through that.
What did your staff, what was their preference?
Their preference seemed not as divided, but their preference was option 3 or option 2. Option 3 was first, option 2 was second.
We have another comment here.
Sure, yeah, please.
Pastor Sean, pastor of Trinity, but not a resident downtown. Just a question, the council chambers, do the council chambers get used for anything other than council meetings?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not dead space unless you're having a council meeting?
No, there's meetings almost every day of the week between the different groups.
Okay.
Planning commission and those, all the boards.
All right, that was it.
It's a good good question.
Well, I guess, it was just, the question would have been, if it's only used for council then it doesn't need to be a designated space in the building. It's a lot of wasted space. It's a lot of square footage you're paying for when you could have it set up next door in our social hall, which will stay behind what we set up for a sanctuary, and it's all covered up until you need and then you're going to have a meeting, and you come over and uncover it and have your meeting. So
I think
then
one factor, wherever those chambers are, I kind of hate that it's called council chambers. I know that's the thing to call it,
Sure,
but
sure.
to me, it's a town gathering space,
Right.
a community gathering space for town business primarily. But the one factor that's really crucial is the audio and video and the ability to live stream
Right.
what we do.
Right.
We do not in any way want to go backwards from that. So
Right.
whatever we do in moving forward, that's got to be a key element kind of to
Right.
doing that.
We have those capabilities next door, and we would really like to see our social hall used more for public gatherings. I mean, we have seating capacity for 350. So we got...
It's a great space.
Standing capacity. Yeah, but it's, it's a good space, and we would like to see it used more. Just more presence in the community. And there was something else I was going to ask, and now it's gone away. There you go. Wasn't important.
Thank you so much.
Yes, of course.
So I haven't said much. Let me have a second to impart my wisdom on everybody. So I shopped at Meatland, and I would never want to see that gem taken down. No. I do remember shopping there once, but to me it is an eyesore. Not because whether or not people who visit here as tourists like it or not, just because I think it's an eyesore as somebody who does live here. But it's really hard for me to Bob's point, want to spend that money when we do have other options in terms of land. And I hate how we are like kind of bound in, but I know we spent a lot of money on these drawings and this concept, this plan that we already have, but to let that dictate what our options are going forward, I think it just puts us down a hole that I don't think we should be trapped by. And if that means that we need to spend more money on a new plan that we can accommodate using existing property, I think that's a better option. And I agree 100% with you that whether or not these buildings, whatever their value may be, is their value, and whatever their value is doesn't mean these are not the most attractive properties to sell. I mean, I don't know who's gonna want them really in their current state. So, I mean, they're not residences, they're not probably gonna be repurposed this as a church. The municipal building has its own issues, which we've gone over ad nauseum here. So, I mean, they're not easy buildings and properties to sell. And regardless of their value, it's still, to your point, money that we can use at some point for something else. So it's just hard for me. And one thing we haven't really talked about at all, and this is also not something we've made any decisions about yet, but at some point in the future, I won't even say near future, but we're going to have an opportunity to consider the Canoni, the railroad property. And I feel like if we do this for 1 point whatever acres, at this valuation, we are greatly handicapping our ability to even consider that without some major bond issuance, and I think there is tremendous potential upside there. I mean, I know we can control it, that's a separate conversation, you know, through zoning and everything like that, but I think it's gonna be worth the conversation, and to have that option financially on the table to potentially secure that property is an important thing to think about beyond just our normal budget considerations. The other thing I've never liked about the Meatland transaction is that, you know, we don't need it all, and they're only willing to sell it all. I don't like the negotiation place that we're in that transaction, because I don't know who else is gonna buy all 14 lots. There's no Best Buy waiting to come into town and build a you know, a big box store at the entrance. And while I would love to see a Norman Rockwell, Snow Village-esque town hall as we come into town here, it's just hard for me to wrap my head around. I mean, I'm the guy who, when I go to buy a new car, I want the one on the showroom floor that has everything, but that's usually not the one I drive off with, and I feel like a town hall there is not one I feel like driving off with personally. So for what it's worth, that's my thoughts on that subject.
You need to end on humor, though.
So a guy walks into a bar. See, I didn't even have to.
Anything else, Ray?
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to recap, just to make sure that we understood when we rated them, where that fell, to remind you, if you wanted to try to narrow it down. So on the town parcel on Cassette Parkway, they got a 3.5. I gave a half a point for one of them. The Meatland got a 5. It did meet our criteria. So did the Randolph Avenue property that we own, 5. And the rehab of the current town hall with using Trinity, sorry. No offense, Philippe. That got a 4. So that still was, you know, it did meet majority of our criteria. And that's all. I just wanted to rehash that before you guys try to narrow it down.
So what are we expected to arrive at this point in this whole process tonight?
I think to try to narrow it down to what the consensus is, so that we aren't just spinning our wheels, because at this point, like I said earlier, something needs to be done. Staff needs a place to work that they don't have to worry about coming in on a daily basis. And yeah, I mean, we need to make a decision. This is something, like you said, that has been kicked down for reasons that have nothing to do with us. If COVID never happened, we'd be sitting in a brand new building right now.
May, I wanted to just share another reason, because I don't think I did a good job personally as I think through this of safety. You know, like when I say safety, what do I mean by that? And I'll share something. John, please chime in, or Katie or Bob, others. I think the concern that the building structurally has problems. We know that there's black mold in the building, so it's a bad health problem. We know that it doesn't even meet the egress standards of a building. If something were to happen, there's only one way in and one way out. And that's concerning. Like, even for an active shooter, if something were to happen, that concerns of, like, we have bear spray underneath our desks in case of something. It's a little nerve-wracking, but we have to think that way. So I think it's serious. Of like this, we don't know, but it doesn't work. We're already tapped out, but the safety is the biggest thing that trumps other things for me. Anything to add?
15 people waiting on their turn in one bathroom, just outrageous.
Yeah, that's a little.
I'm glad you brought that up and not me as the bathroom girl.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, let's not go down that road this evening.
It's no longer an appropriate space.
No.
It doesn't demonstrate the confidence and respect that we have for the people that work in that building, for the community. And it doesn't demonstrate a respect for the community that they can't access some of the spaces in there. So it's a done deal that we need something new. I'm just going to throw out, I think the option 4 of renovating should be taken off the table. I don't like having to split up our administrative community. I agree that when you have an older building and you start to peel back the layers, you never know what you're gonna find, and we could be in a position where we're spending almost the same amount of money to renovate a building that would, in the end, be putting a round peg into a square hole for us. I'm just not, I'd rather us, if we're going to make the commitment to upgrading the facility that we have, that we do it in a way that is meaningful and will last for another several generations, as opposed to who knows how long a renovation of the current facility would last.
So what would be your preference then?
Of the remaining three?
Yes.
I'm really torn between the lots on Randolph and Meatland. I'm very comfortable with letting Casat Parkway go, and I feel very strongly about not renovating. But I'm still open to conversations about option 2 and option 3.
Paul?
I am still with option 4, but I would have to address the issues that you brought, safety, okay? And I'd like to hear what it would cost to have the police separated out. As a second option, I would go with the town lots on Randolph, and I would absolutely vote against option 1 and 2.
Thank you.
Yeah, to me, it sounds like Casat is kind of off the table for most folks. I would say that would not be first choice for me. I think the Randolph 7 sort of sounds like a 60s. Is my first preference at this point. I don't think the renovation, especially when you add the cost, if we're estimating 4.7 there, then you have to add the cost of the police and the downside of them not being all together, and the potential of who knows what's there once we open it up. I'm not in favor of that. I'd rather see us have a newer building. So that's a long way to say 3 would be 1 and 2 would be 2.
I'm sorry, Paul. Excuse me? I'm saying it, Paul.
Yeah, and just add with the option 4, a big cost factor would be the police. What is a more realistic number? We're throwing out numbers here that may or may not even fly, but again, if you start getting closer to what we have up there, it's an easier decision than to say, okay, take that one off the table and...
Yeah, but the total estimate too, you gotta reevaluate, because the first line is at 1.7, that doesn't, if we're only doing it for 2 years, it's not gonna be 1.7. So that's a huge number. It's $2 million. So you're looking at, 3 million roughly-ish, just looking at those numbers. That's a big difference. It's $2 million difference.
Except we went through the pros and cons of everything else, but we didn't go through the pros and cons of moving the police department off-site.
I know, yeah.
And I think that
They've done it.
that's great that they've done it in the past, but that doesn't mean that that's the best solution, just.
12 years?
Yeah, but that doesn't.
But we're a different place than we were 12 years
But
ago.
what I'm saying is they're not in the office, they're out patrolling, they're not
They're
there.
not. Just like we heard, they're in the office every day.
And
There's someone coming in.
residents
I go to the
and
office
citizens come
2
to
3
see them.
times.
But it's also, what are we saying to the police department by saying we're fine?
They're
with
all
putting-
for it. I've talked to them, they're all for it. They want their own building, they want to be away from somebody.
Are we still doing comments?
Are we?
Yeah.
One thing that may fund majority of the police building, the new building, is the fact that the Trinity cost estimate was based on you guys being there for 25 years, and you're not going to be there that long. So the 1.2 million for Trinity is based on a 25-year estimate. So, yeah.
So, I think, no, we could remove the renovate option. I think getting our staff out of the building and getting into Trinity is a smart direction to go as even a first step, because I don't want them to have to wait through all of the process. We know how that gets sidetracked and all of those things, and we have a space and a community space that we could utilize. I lean toward the 7 lots. I am curious if there would be, we don't know until you ask, I believe, that if where the custom cart space is, if we could buy that lot, it kind of is an awkward kind of spot, like could we buy something there that could help with not feeling as tight as we are? I realize he doesn't want to divide it up, but that's just like a little portion of it. So that would be where it would go. I think Casat is off, and as much as I want the Meatland location for many things, I think it will sell, and something will come on the books with that down the road. I don't know when, but I can't, in my mind, I can't, with our other options of what we own, look at that as that amount. Number 3.
Like,
Well,
we're gonna just. Yeah.
Well, number 1 for me is the Randolph lots, option 3. Number 2, and I do like, I like the immediacy of doing something now with Trinity, although I have to say I do, which we didn't talk about before, I do have reservations about the impact that that's going to have on this neighborhood, because I know it's already a church and there are people who come and go, but I mean, the town office is every bit of a business that any other business is. I mean, it has employees, it has people who constantly come and go, builders, homeowners. I mean, people are in and out there all the time, and we talk a lot about parking constraints and people being unable to park in front of their homes, and I know there are options and we can encourage staff to park in certain places, but the guy coming over on his lunch break to drop off plans from Bay Creek is not necessarily going to follow those.
No, he's
guidelines.
going to pull in front of the Bay Haven Inn. I can tell you that right now, because it's the easy spot and it's the easy way out.
So anyway.
They do it already, so.
And when you put that on top of what is already happening in here, day to day, to your point, various meetings that happen during the day in this building. Anyway, that's just kind of
All right.
something I worry about or think about a little bit.
I think we're gonna have to live with it, because we gotta get
Yeah.
them out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, to your point, Clayton, I live right next
Yeah.
door to Trinity, and it wouldn't bother me one whit. We're talking about a half block difference.
Yeah.
Can I put my
on
boat
Plum.
there? In front of your house?
Yeah, I think-
Is now
Yeah.
I completely agree, Bob, and we share that block, so I don't think it
So I
would be.
think we have
No, I mean, hey,
good line item
it's-
in the budget now.
I don't live there. I'm just throwing stuff out. So number 3,
Would
I
you
don't
want to
know.
vote to take off anything?
yeah, I would, just take off probably the other 2.
And Elise, I'm gonna let you go ahead, but we're gonna have no more comments after this. That was my fault to let more comments in at this time, but go right ahead.
For number 3, also, we have a big police presence coming into town, just saying. I saw people on Facebook commenting about that. I don't think we have to worry about that. But for number 3, would you be redesigning, or would you be going with would you be trying to use that same footprint? Because if you...
There would be minor changes, but we'd be pretty much using the same footprint, correct?
Footprint, yes, but we need to historically make it fit in and meet the guidelines that we need.
Do we
to meet.
need though, like the police space has like the chief's office,
Yeah.
a separate office for 2 sergeants, and then there's like almost a desk for every officer, like it's a borough precinct or something. Do we need? I just feel like there's things that we could explore here and there
Yes.
that. I mean,
that's
I'm
what
not
I
saying
was-
they don't need adequate
yeah.
space and safe space and all those things, but I just don't know that they would even utilize that. I mean, certainly
They
an
might
on.
not now, but they might in 30 years.
Yeah.
Well, I think we relook at that plan and what we had there, and if there's a need to consolidate, then we look at that. I mean, if we're gonna
I
make
also
changes.
think, and I know you've talked about this with people in town who are in the trades, that when you go out as a municipality and you put this type of space out to bid, you attract a certain level of design standard and way, like, this is the way we did it there, so we'll just do a little bit, 80% of that space that we did for Yorktown, or, you know, whatever. And I feel like, I mean, when I talk to guys that I know who are Class A builders, I mean, I'm not talking about guys who do decks and additions, but guys who build, I mean, those numbers are insane. I mean, those would be mic drop, like, give me one more contract and I'm done. Like, there's, the site work is complicated, but once you get to the build, I mean, it's just using.
You're absolutely right, but I'll just give you an example. On the restrooms and visitor center, we try to attract local builders.
We tried.
And even the ones that we got some interest in, we got down from 1.9 to 1.2. So, you know, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
A lot of these local guys don't want to touch it because it's a municipal build, and they're not building for a homeowner that they can string along. You know, they won't touch it. They won't even look at the plans. So, but there was a point I was going to make other than that. How'd you get me off on that?
The police station, the amount of space?
Oh, yeah. It sounds like a lot, okay? But to put it in perspective, okay, it's roughly 1,500 square feet. That does include desks for each officer. It includes an armory. They don't have an armory now. They don't have a dedicated space for an armory. It includes an evidence room. They don't have a dedicated space for an evidence room. It includes a restroom. It includes a kitchenette. It's 1,500 square feet. The restrooms and visitor center that we're doing is 1,300 square feet. So, you know, put it in perspective. Can we slice out a couple of desks? Yeah, okay, but it's not going to change the footprint that much.
So just real quick to finish it off, it sounds like obviously number 3 turned out to be number 1. It would probably be my number 1, other than what I brought up tonight about number 2 with Meatland. But again, to Sam's point about the future, none of us do know it, but knowing what this town has done and where it's gone, I could see it as a potential win down the road. So I would probably put 2 first, 3 second, personally. Cassant off the table, and as you've heard, I think remodeling is not something we should do at all. And I don't even think it should be thought about.
Ken, I forgot what you voted. I know number 3.
3 and 2 was
Okay.
the second.
But renovate off or off the list or?
Correct.
Okay,
But
I just
I
want
agree with the point of
getting
let's get
people out.
everybody
Okay, I just want to.
Having worked in that building.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
not what you want to do.
Okay.
All right, can I just ask a couple questions?
Sure.
Just a show of hands to make sure I get it accurately, just reflecting. To take the first one off, cassette off, raise your hand to take it off. Okay. To take, renovating the current town hall, to take that off, show of hands. Okay, so that's a majority on both of those. That's the first one and the last one to be taken off. So then we have the 2 ones in the middle, Meatland, the Randolph 7 properties got the most votes, that was 5. Well, I guess I could take a vote now. Whose first choice was that? Show of hands.
For which? The
Randolph.
Randolph. If the other
If
2
the
were off,
others
the
are
2.
off.
If the others are off, correct. 6. And then, I guess it's kind of.
It was just me.
Just.
He doesn't get to vote.
Just because I'm looking at the future. I'm a future person.
You are.
He
so
doesn't
that's
get to
all
vote
it is.
because he's.
All right, that's the feedback.
Can we also, though, explore that possibility of, as Tammy
Yes.
mentioned,
Get,
getting a couple of lots where Custom Carts is? You know, they may not be interested at all in selling a few, but they might.
Probably after you're gone, they will.
That's up to.
I'm out, so.
Yes, I hear you.
I
you got the phone numbers before he's gone, let's go, you need all 12 of them, please.
So, but we
No,
would like that to be pursued.
But I have been holding these people at bay for a long time, and they are not happy about it. So, and they knew we were meeting tonight, so I need to tell them the results of this. They're not gonna be happy, and this is gonna go away. This
And
option's gonna
I
go
appreciate
away tomorrow.
everything you've spent your time on. I know it's been a lot of work on your end to just have those conversations happen. So I understand
Yeah,
how it must feel a little bit.
Unless they come back down in price by about 50%.
yeah, I'm sure that's gonna happen.
Yeah, if we can pick them up for 125 a lot,
Hey, if they-
we're all in.
we're
But
walking
you
away,
ask if they
let's
want to
see
get rid of
what
2
they
lots.
I'm not asking anything. I'm done.
Well, Rick, ask if they want to get rid of 2 lots.
Come on, John, there's one chance.
I'll leave to carry the torch, or if you'd like to go tell them the bad news if you don't want to deal with it as well.
No, I owe them that.
Okay.
And our attorneys that I've been working with all year. And I guess I just want to say for the record, I've been working on this at the council's direction, not because John Hosey wanted this.
Oh, no,
This
yeah.
is not me pushing an
No.
agenda. This is me doing my job.
Correct.
That's all I wanted to make sure.
And thank you so much for it. as
Yeah.
well.
Well,
It
we
was a lot
got
of
it
work.
much further than we ever thought we would get it as far as possibility, and certainly much further than we were able to do with Main Street for a couple of years, to get them to a point where they're ready. I can only hope that it's gotten them ready for maybe another possibility of a sale. You know, that's all you can, everything kind of steps forward to something. You know me, I'm the Pollyanna, I'm the
So
like.
Lee Goldman, who was with the Atlantic Maritime Range, before she sold, she was gonna rebuild it for $1 million. And that was 19 years ago. It was.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So what do we
That's a
do
lot.
now
Yeah.
that we've narrowed it down to the lots? How do we make this come to life?
Well, I think that's a great
Contact
point.
Dave.
And that was the first thing I was thinking about right now is, I think there's a conversation that needs to take place between, us and Meatland folks. And that will determine if we have 2 options. It may come down to 1 option.
Well, I think
But-
after he gives the news
Yeah.
tomorrow, it's going to be one option.
Yeah.
If they aren't getting a contract tomorrow, this is over.
Yeah.
Well,
So
but you
then-
don't know unless you ask for the 2 lots at a good price. I mean,
That's true,
like
but
they
we
can
don't
You're
list
going
the
back
price.
to 2 lots. I'm
Yeah,
talking about the
no,
whole
I know, I'm
project.
talking about when they have that conversation, it is the time to ask, would you consider, or at least, would you think about? I don't want us to lose the opportunity.
I agree. There's nothing wrong with that.
And I have that on my list.
And
I will-
as far as, beside that, as far as the next steps, I have a contract change order ready to go with HBA to re-site the building. So I just got to tell them what site. And we'll have to buff that up a little bit because now we have additional work for stormwater management, but that won't take long. And then we'll have to enter negotiations with Trinity to do the interim move.
Just remember, we got $262,000 now. That was budget. That we're not using for me.
Correct. So,
we have-
as you know, the budget draft that is before you, then it's going to public hearing next Thursday, has the Meatland option built in, just because that was the worst case scenario. We wanted to present that to the public. I have already prepared a series of budget amendments
Of course you have.
that would remove it. So I will be joining you in the audience again, one last time for the June 18th meeting, since the budget will be coming forward. I'll furnish you with those series of amendments. If someone just needs to make those amendments, I'll pull all that out, and it will free up some additional money for
Keep moving faster on
that. And I did build in, I built in Meatland and I built in the Visitor Center. Is in the budget that's going before public hearing now. So you leave the Visitor Center in, pull Meatland out, then it's done. And yeah, and then there's just 2 other items that I'm asking Rick to bring forward. Well, one of them is budget related, because the budget, when we had our budget meetings, you updated the strategic plan to redo the priorities. So that's coming forward. The amendment to the strategic plan is coming forward. And the last thing I wanted to clean up before I left was I updated the camp plan. If you recall, I did that literally months after I got here, guessing what was going to happen before we even developed a strategic plan, and the cycle in the one is not correct. So I just updated it to be what we're actually using, and just bringing that forward for readoption. So I'll be here to answer questions for that, and then this is the last time you'll see me.
Oh, not forever.
You're staying. Your homes are here. A couple.
Last time you'll see me in official capacity.
That's
Yes,
right.
there you
Thank
go.
Thank you, and thank you so much for that. If nothing else, is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.